Planet Tsang Lun, 2025 AD. The girl threw him a punch, which he was able to dodge. The man wondered why on earth she wanted to kill him. It was his sister, I only laughed. 5,000 years ago, he was the emperor on Earth. She was the lord of the spirit realm. They cultivated together, went through trials together, traveled the planets together. She doesn't want to be just Taikan's sister. He is too cruel, for he constantly rejects her. So she offered to die together. The sister decided to kill him if she couldn't have him. In fact, she's the one who's too cruel. Looks like he'll have to go into seclusion for a while to regain his strength. Tsang Lun was originally a desolate planet. But when Immortal Emperor Xia Guishuan was restored here, his aura flowed out. This led to the emergence of the planet's indigenous inhabitants, of a kind of earth creatures. They worshipped Xia Guishuan as their father god, and called themselves the descendants of the gods. 300 years later, the people of the Blue Star moved here. Cities sprang up, humanity grew, and the indigenous people were called demons. 2525 AD, planet Tsang Lun. And he didn't understand how it happened at all. Everything in the world was filled with karma along with him. It seemed to be a world that was nurtured by his immortal power. He went into the store. They respect the freedom of this Sir's handbook lover, but the employee asked if he was sure he wanted to buy $10 worth of merchandise for a 500-year-old vintage bill. They wouldn't be able to give change. The beautiful girl told him to return the vintage bill and she would pay for the man. She told him not to be so presumptuous in the future and called him a little demon. Afterward, she said goodbye to him. He wondered why she had called him a demon. Looks like times have changed and the old money can no longer be used. You can't make a move without an ID card. He felt a familiar aura. The demon was telling the stinky vixen to give him the serum, and it wouldn't get away with it. The vixen replied that they had actually invented a cure that turns into animals and had already put it into practice. The man realized that this aura was unnatural, and he wasn't naturally like this. When that stupid vixen dies, no one will ever know the secret. Based on the separation in terms of cultivation level, Yin Xiaorao is considered a cultivator at the beginning of the Qin stage. This stage is considered to be very strong among mortals. And this Batman, with the help of medicine, had ignited his potential and raised his strength to about the middle of the Qin stage, at the cost of shortening his lifespan. She reminded him that times had changed. Yin Xiaorao shot out. But he'd said this fox wouldn't run away, hadn't he? She was surprised that it had suddenly dodged her shot. Since this foxy little fox has some of his karma, he decided to help her. He threw a punch at him. She immediately recognized this little demon she had met back then in the store. The girl explained that she had a lot to drink and asked if he wanted to help her sister get to the hotel. But in her mind, the girl thought of knocking out this teapot at the hotel, and everyone would be safe then. But that fox really doesn't realize that he's not that stupid. Still, because he shouldn't mess with foxes, the girl explained that when they got to the hotel, he could do whatever he wanted with her. She pretended to be suddenly dizzy. Afterward, the girl wanted to fall right on top of the guy, but he stepped back. She immediately got angry and asked if it was a guy or him. How could she not be attracted to him at all? Or was he just underdeveloped? She told her to stop talking, because not all men are good at it. Suddenly, someone was already hurting. The man shined a flashlight in their direction and asked what they were doing. He immediately recognized Miss Yin, who was strangely dressed. Xiao Ru replied that he was her boyfriend. They had just returned to the parties and ran into demons. Those demons robbed them that they didn't even have a car left. She asked these guys how they could even maintain public order. The protagonist assumed she was some kind of celebrity since the passing patrolman knew her. The man explained that it had been turbulent lately. Especially this afternoon there was a heavenly sign. The outline of a Tsang Lun floated in the clouds. He doesn't know what to do about those demon clans in the south. If that's the case, the girl decided to leave it at that and said that the cops were working hard to arrest demons. She also asked to have her and her boyfriend's car ready so they could go back, and the protagonist realized that the form of the dragon Tsang Lun was a vision that was created by his exit. The girl at this time was thinking that this hapless demonkin was a bit handsome. He's really pathetic if he still hasn't fully recovered from his injuries after all these years. Suddenly the girl touched him. He was immediately wary and asked what she was doing. The girl sat on his lap, and this is the first female president of Sangyu City who is arrogant and indifferent. But it seems she is just like the others when she sees a handsome man. Afterward, the guys moved away from each other. She guessed what race he was, and she automatically checked to see if he had a tail. She had been an arrogant human girl for over 20 years, but her foxy nature broke through because of him. They drove to her house, At this moment, with humans and gods feuding, he can't just reveal his identity. Plus, he's undocumented and penniless. Since he passed by today and didn't hesitate to help her, she would help him with all of this. All the servants greeted the mistress. That butler was angry that Miss had brought home a lover. It seemed to him that this butler was firm and unyielding, but hated out of envy. And the frightened, angry thoughts that stirred in the sea of the god, not at all hidden from his perception. She gave him a bracelet that was linked to her unlimited bank account. The money is easy, but the ID card will be a challenge. But that doesn't matter, because she has someone higher than her. He put the bracelet on his arm, and a window popped up in front of him where he had to keep his name, age, gender, race, specialty, hobbies, profession, and personal experience. She prompted him to start building his dossier from childhood to adulthood. He should tell the truth about himself, and she would see how she could adapt it. But he's afraid that no one will believe his experience if it's listed on his profile. In fact, he realized that this girl is trying to probe his background. She even wondered how much of a legendary personality he had if he was still pretending. Could it be that his master is a true immortal? Or could he open a mountain abode of celestials where all immortals come and the 9 celestial maidens live in his bed? The protagonist replied that it was pretty close. She threw a pillow at him, telling him to stop talking this nonsense and start with his childhood. He was born into the dynasty as a prince, as I now call it, and inherited the throne after his father died. The girl remained silent, and then replied that she would think of everything herself. She might even be able to guess without him saying anything. He is the child who was left behind after the gods evacuated the northern continent, after the war between humans and gods 24 years ago. Is she really testing him again? But this girl doesn't even believe him when he tells her the truth. She has finished compiling the information, but she needs to find a good acquaintance who leads her to the Daxia system, so it will have to wait a few days. He thanked her for helping him with his identity. He could help her with something in return. But the girl replied that she didn't need anything, because she didn't understand what a newcomer who didn't even have an ID could do. If you talk about personality, he is an immortal Xiguishuan emperor. She had now decided to call him Cindy. Obviously, she didn't believe him this time either. A little while later, with his new hair from the spell and his new butler clothes picked out, he asked her what the war between the humans and the gods was that she was talking about then. She was surprised he didn't even know that, but decided to tell him nonetheless. 200 years ago, a human blue star fleet wandered onto the planet Tsang Lun, and at first everyone was able to live together in peace. Then the humans took over, and they, the natives, hold control of part of the country. He was certain that divine skills could not be defeated by scientific advances. She understood Cindy's frustration, but times had changed. The man informed the Yinping head that the Yin head had brought the man. The next day, she was informed that the Yin head's great aunt had arrived. Meanwhile, she was lying in the main character's arms. She immediately threw a pillow at him and asked why he was in her bed, after which she told that bastard and pervert to get out of here. No man had ever spent the night in her bed before. He looks straight on the outside, but he's actually a pervert. He is not allowed to go outside and show his face. If anyone sees that she has brought a man home, the girl will lose her face. But they're coming for him, and she's already lost her face. Great Aunt couldn't believe it had been so long and she still hadn't come out. The butler announced that Miss would be right down. Great Aunt really is so polite. Xiaoru asked her grandmother why on earth she didn't warn her that she was coming. The girl would have picked her up. This rude girl my brother brought in is getting prettier and prettier. The Great Aunt replied that she didn't want to interfere with her work. However, the sun is already high and she is still at home. There is a reason why things are not going well at the Sangyu branch. She will personally explain the company's performance to the board, so there is no need to worry about it. But suddenly, she remembered the very man from whom she had stolen the medicine formula from the Zhou family that day. She didn't understand, since when Grandma had gotten involved with this family. It looked like she was up to no good this time. The Great Aunt asked Yin Xiaorao if she was listening to her. The advanced defense medicine she gave to the family is only effective for 3 minutes. Therefore, Grandmother didn't understand how the military could approve it. Then they can, as usual, refuse and modify it for civilian use. But Grandma asked who would even buy it. You can only drink it before your wife catches you cheating. She needs to see that a market niche has already emerged. Grandma replied that she wasn't serious. She is a beautiful girl and not really suited for the business world. She still needs a man by her side, so she immediately started talking about uniting with the Zhou family. It's the 26th century, and she's still thinking about a marriage of convenience. Her grandmother asked her if she was overreacting because she had a man staying with her tonight. She immediately asked what the big deal was about moving a man home. She's 24 now, as if Grandma doesn't party all night long. Great Aunt immediately asked what the hell she was talking about. Xiaorou heard that Grandmother has been recruiting a lot of capable men lately. She replied that they were all bodyguards. The girl replied that the man was also her bodyguard. Since this man is a bodyguard, why not have him go out and practice with Grandma's bodyguard to see what he can do? Xia Guishuan, who is a hapless little demon who has just returned to the world. If he shows his face, he will definitely be in danger. Grandmother will not let him go. Therefore, the girl explained that he had left. But suddenly they heard a voice as the man called her dear and asked who the young and ugly woman was who had woken him up so early in the morning. A great aunt asked her who was so bold as to insult her, after which the main character in pajamas came out. Could this really be the tall and handsome guy she hired as a bodyguard to guard her? The girl asked if he couldn't be her bodyguard just because he was handsome. The grandmother asked if he was sure this guy was a capable and competent bodyguard. The girl replied that she was very competent. Then the grandmother would not be ceremonious. As soon as Grandma ordered her bodyguard to act, he immediately ran to attack him. Well, the main character wasn't too worried about it. He waved his fingers, and he got wings on the back and also horns. It's now clear that he's a modified human. Powerfully immediately asked him how he got him to show his true form. After that, he wanted to attack to make that guy die. The girl immediately ran to his defense. He activated the shield, after which he attacked that demon. He collapsed to the floor in front of them. It was the vixen who really overshadowed him. Xiaorou ordered it to be locked with a high-voltage lock and handed over to the ministry. Grandma started to explain that handing him over to the ministry would complicate things. There are a lot of people who are afraid to bother the Yin family, so it would be better to bring him back to the family and let them handle it. The family has just arranged a favorable marriage for the girl with the Zhou family, but there's no time for that. Grandmother replied that she had enough time for that. This boy Zhou Pengcheng is not good enough for her, so grandmother will find a better one for her. Research on biomodified humans is banned in the military. The military is the largest client of the Yin family. Even if the Zhou family is rich and powerful, you can't get inbreeding. One can postpone for a wedding, but one cannot postpone for a war cure. Xiaorou has taken an oath, and failure to fulfill it will result in a court-martial. If developing new medicines was so easy, she wouldn't have gone to the Zhou family to steal. Or rather, to study it. But Xia Guishuan stepped forward and replied that the medicine was only a trifle. How does he even have the nerve to call a martial medicine a trifle? The girl thought that he should stop pretending and covering for her. Suddenly they all turned their attention to another person, namely to young Wu Yue, who replied that he apparently didn't care much for life. He never would have thought that there could be such a strong person on the Tsang Lun. But even she's not quite human. The great aunt was happy to see Commander Yang, but she just passed by. She immediately approached the kid and asked if he could develop a potion that the war ministry needed. And the protagonist replied that he could do it. Xiaorou tried to stop Sister Yang somehow. It wondered if he dared to put his life on the line. The guy replied that he had no problem doing it. Then it was settled. Xiao Yu told him not to be so reckless. She tried to explain that this guy knew nothing about potions and was talking nonsense. There was no need to pay attention to him. But they just ignored her and gave each other hands. A great aunt mentioned that medicine is their family affair, but she was slapped in the face. But Yang Wu Yue replied that medicine is the business of the Ministry of War, and the Yin family is just a simple supplier who pretends to be an important person. The great aunt rebuked Yan Wu Yue that she was only a half-breed of human and divine origin. How long could she hold a high position based on unspoken laws? It was obvious that the woman was angry. The great aunt started apologizing and saying she was wrong. She asked me to let her go. The girl said she would take this cyborg, and if the rest of us don't get out of here, they're all gonna die. They immediately took the great aunt and left. The guy went downstairs to beat someone up. But this woman stole his entire scene. She started to explain to her that the human race was struggling to survive on this planet. But it had only been 200 years, and they had already sunk to this level. Xiaorou tried to help this hothead cool down, and they'll have a separate conversation. There is no reagent, so she also found a lover. And now she is also asking for help to get off the map. Garden. She was told that the Zhou family was researching biomodified humans. She found out that the Zhou family was involved when she researched the relics of the gods. But this family has a military background and is difficult to deal with. She needed Xiaorou's help. Namely, it was to seduce Zhou Picheng. After which, she was sent straight to hell for making such requests. The Yin head was certain that even boiling Chinese injuries were similar to their age. The girl immediately asked what they even knew. Since it was alchemy. The current temperature was 666. Head Yin is using a test tube to heat the medicine. Do they all use an oven? She explained that it was the newest alchemical formula. How could she ever believe that demon's ravings? Don't just reduce the main side effects of reagents. They just need to use the grinded pulp of Lake Sintan flowers and Qinghua herb. After that, they need to heat it for 2 hours at a constant temperature. And that, as it turned out, was the right recipe. No one expected it to actually work or how it even works. If the data are correct, this tiny pill could counteract the side effects of genetic reagents. He immediately asked the lady whether such success was the result of the work of this new academician. The girl did not understand which academician he was talking about, a botanical garden in nature. Those years when he was seriously injured. Then from this area, he went to the Earth Core to recover his strength. He would never have thought that Yin Xiaoru would turn it into a botanical garden. Suddenly an animal appeared behind him. But the main character just punched him. A tame tiger cub has a mind. It's almost certainly the effect of the stale aura he released during his recovery. Xiaoru ran over to him and asked Guishuan what grade of elixir he had given her. The guy asked if it didn't work. Then it will trade for another one that is more powerful. There are quite a few ways to do this. Suddenly Yang Wu Yue sent a message. Special Services Demon Hunter Squad Sang Yu. The person with the nickname 9527 seemed glad that the vixen had stopped by. The man with nickname 1024 hadn't seen a vixen in a long time. The commander is so mean and hides her beautiful girlfriends. Didn't the commander know they're all single? This person just got banned 10 minutes user fire. Fire, fire, fire. Fire, 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 fire wrote that Foxy is who she asked to help these SOP. He wondered what SOP meant. The girl replied that it was such an abbreviation. He assumed they were some horny assholes. It's highly likely that the Zhou family chose this place to study biomodified humans in order to seize the location of the demonic relics. Today is Zhou Pezheng's birthday, and the lab's defenses will be weakened. Therefore, this is the perfect opportunity. She doesn't need a girl to follow this guy, they just need to be apprehended. She will take the opportunity to sneak in and investigate with her team. She only sighed but agreed. Dinner is coming up, so she asked the guy if he wanted to go together. And the main character replied that, of course. Such a thing can't pass without him. But she doesn't want to give him anything nice for his birthday. Then Xia Guichuan can prepare a present for him, and he even vouched that this guy would die. She asked him to do it. The girl thought they might suspect something if she just walked in with him. But the guy assured her that with such a status, his lady could safely take a bodyguard with her. She couldn't believe this guy looked even better in a suit. He told these honored guests that they could go inside. Everyone immediately glared at the girl, talking about how she was as beautiful as they were saying out loud. Everyone seemed to have thoughts of her being his woman, but the girls were judging her. They thought the girl was just some flirty little bitch. The boy wondered if the vixen wasn't pretty today too. They were approached by a guy in a white suit who replied that he and the girl hadn't seen each other in a while. She's still just as beautiful. She thanked him for the compliment and handed him the gift, wishing him a happy birthday. She will let this Zhou Pengcheng get a little carried away for a while. He opened the gift, and there was a magical weapon. Xiao Rao explained that it was a protective artifact that could stop the impact of a ray gun. The girl shot. That beam reflected the shield. When looking at such defenses, they are at least advanced high-ranked magical weapons. Artifacts are becoming increasingly rare, and each one is worth a fortune. This girl is really ruining the family if she gave this artifact away like this. He, on the other hand, thought she was just a busty, brainless woman. Too bad he wouldn't let her off the hook, even if she'd made such an effort to show him good favor. Yang's team scouted that from this position they could avoid all the guards and get straight into the institute. 2 people used their ability that controls the earth. After that, they ran into a wall. She ordered to go around and breach that wall. After that, they were able to sneak into the lab. But there was no one here. They did not understand why there were no people here. The man reported to Commander Yang that there was no useful information here. From the looks of it, the Zhou family had cleaned the place up long ago. But that's impossible, because biological tests always leave a lot of traces and remains. They can't be hidden. That's what prompts the next thought. She hypothesized that it was just a cover-up, and the real entrance is deeper underground in the villa of the Zhou family. Everyone was dancing. The girl explained that she wanted to sneak out to check on Sis Yang. The boy wondered if she was thinking of going alone. Zhou Pension asked if he could have this honor and ask her to dance. Xiao Rao grabbed his hand and apologized since she already had a partner. She also offered Guishuan a dance. He wondered if she was confident that the average bodyguard could dance. If she got a laugh, it wouldn't be pretty. She can just teach him if he doesn't know how. She advised the kid to follow her movements and not to step on her feet. But rather, it is the protagonist who will be teaching this girl to dance here. She can't believe this guy can dance. He even learned on purpose for her. At first glance, this dance is truly amazing. Beauty is part of the heavenly Tao, and if an attentive person sees it, his interpretation can even enlighten. She couldn't believe that while dancing with such a beauty, he could still be distracted by talking to her about enlightenment. The girl didn't understand how she found such a handsome bodyguard. Just by inviting him to dance, you can increase your prestige many times over. Most likely, all Aura herself contains her precious one. No one knows what might happen the evening after she returns. Sounds like this chick is trying to provoke him. The butler informed the young gentleman that someone had invaded the secret passage. Looks like it's time for them to break up. The energy fluctuations are getting stronger and stronger, so they should be close by now. She told her men to get ready and keep up with her. They ran into a new room. She didn't understand how such a place could even exist underground. It is the violent cataclysm of the descendants of the gods that came to form these monsters. What kind of people would even do that? But suddenly, she heard voices that said General Yang had misunderstood. She must realize that if she let this sea of blood continue to rise to the surface, even the people in the city would turn into monsters. They are doing a cleansing of this sea, activating the formation so that all these animals can withstand the harmful pneuma. She asked me not to tell her they were doing good, but that's out of the question. Sure, they'll take the sacred blood with them when they cleanse this place, but they have no intention of harming anyone. After all, this is how they cooperate with the Zhou family, but considering the shared divine lineage with the Yang general, she asked not to fight to the death, and they would leave after purification. And the general asked if she really thought the girl would believe that. They are obviously trying to blame it on the gods. If that were true, it would be the people who would be the ones suffering from the negative energy in the sea of blood. After all, killing a famous military general is pretty troublesome. From the magic circle, power from the sea of blood began to flow to her. She asked the commander not to refuse advice. She immediately pulled out some very interesting toys. She certainly wasn't going to back down for nothing either. Meanwhile, they were being watched by the chief protagonist, who was happy that they were finally fighting. Several swords appeared behind her, after which she directed them to General Yang. The kid thought that these people were cultivating into immortality just by seeing flying swords. The general replied that it was just child's play. She's so hot she'll burn the hair off anyone who wants to do anything to her. After which, the general channeled her power directly into the sea of blood. She can't let that girl take it. She immediately moved to thwart her opponent, but she asked me to accept it as a gift. General Yang realized that things were bad, which is to be expected from a special forces commander. These people are no match for her. The red-haired girl began to unseal. How could such a vast sea of blood consist of just one drop? They've been purifying that drop of holy blood for years. They used unsuspecting animals over and over again. Since Commander Yang was willing to give up her body as a replacement, it would save them a lot of trouble. The people in black began to congratulate the celestial goddess for uniting with the holy blood. From now on, the great Tao would be in her body, and the descendants of the gods would bow before her. All of existence would become one. The blood has changed, the bone marrow has been purified. Immortal Tao and martial Tao work together. The descendants of the gods don't even realize that this blood is their godfather's blood. She even wondered, when she absorbed this blood, would they even call her mother? The protagonist immediately wondered if this wasn't his stale blood that gushed out when he was injured. He immediately found himself beside her, and asked why she was consuming it. If she wants people to call her mom, then what should they call him? She didn't understand who he was, or when he'd even gotten here. If this guy saw something he shouldn't have, he's better off dead. But for some reason, she couldn't control her body. It was as if the girl realized who was standing in front of her and bent herself on her knees, calling him daddy. We were immediately asked who he was. The girl assumed it was the immortal god spirit. But somehow she obeyed him wholeheartedly. He hadn't expected that his blood could have such an impact, and the sudden appearance of another daughter was quite troublesome. He had her marked as a slave. From now on, he could easily find her even if she ran away to the ninth heaven. She could call him father. So she didn't understand how it was that she had become a slave at all. Xia Guixuan asked what her name was and where she was from. As it turns out, this girl's name is Lingmo Zui and she is an actress by profession. No wonder she looks good if she is a star. He also advised her not to be afraid and to just be on her best behavior. She, on the other hand, thought that this was the end. The girl had kept her innocence for more than 20 years and would lose it here today. She was starting to get embarrassed by this closeness, and recognized that she wasn't really handsome. She didn't have a bad view either. The protagonist advised using the technique over a period of time to restore the mutated monsters back into normal creatures and releasing them into the wild as redemption. She recognized that it was incredible that he could transmit the technique with a single finger. He'll find her when he has an assignment. The girl asked if he was leaving already. It turns out this man said to behave well, to be used specifically for transferring techniques. What did it matter if he just stupefied the young girl and sent her to the mine? Quite suddenly, Zhou Pengcheng decided to propose to Xiaoru and asked if she would marry him. She didn't understand what this man was doing at all. He advised her not to be in a hurry to refuse, for she could contact her dear sister first. There had been a terrible explosion in the dungeon, and Yang Wuyue was presumed dead. The girl also noticed that there was no connection. She asked how he had even dared to make an attempt on the commander's life. There was no need to falsely accuse him. He just wanted to remind the girl that Yang Wuyue could no longer protect her. Therefore, it was better for her to accept the offer. He thanked these gentlemen for coming to celebrate his birthday. He also had one new thing he wanted to show them all. It's a divine-like magic mirror. It reflects the very essence of all living things. It's an exotic plant, but under this mirror it turned into a plain golden chrysanthemum. He asked these gentlemen if there was any chance that any of the descendants of the gods could be among them and reflected in their true form. They did not understand how it was possible. They had been at war with the descendants of the gods for decades, so they didn't understand how they could even dare to come. If there was a descendant of the gods here, then they would chop it into pieces. She immediately thought that this man was threatening her because he knew she was a fox. But then she realized that he was targeting Xia Guishuan. He only needs to reveal this little demon, and Yin Xiaoro will be accused of hiding a descendant of the gods. Then this chick will cry and beg him to protect her bodyguard. But nothing happened to him. He wondered why the mirror wasn't working. The girl also didn't understand what had just happened, and thought that this mirror was a common craft. The protagonist explained to the young gentleman that he was human, so naturally the mirror had no effect on him. However, he has an identical mirror. The young gentleman has a female mirror, and he has a male mirror. He'd been reflecting it for so long, so why shouldn't he try it too? The guy didn't realize what was the use of looking at him. He's a human being. But suddenly a shell appeared on his back. They were surprised that the young master of the Zhou family was actually the spirit of the turtle. He didn't understand how this could have happened either, and where that turtle shell had come from. How brave for the fowl to come here. They immediately wanted to grab him and hand him over to the police to take action. They were yelling for no one to let him leave. Other people, however, had to protect the young master. If he is planted with the identity of a descendant of the gods, it's over. He can't be caught. But Xiaoro appeared in front of him, pointing a gun at him and asking if he wanted to slip away in front of the girl. After which she shot him. He immediately took out his protective artifact. It's lucky he still has that artifact with him or he'd be shot. But the truth is, that laser gun pierced his armor. After which he was already tied up. Yin Xiaorao is honest and reliable, and when she says that she is able to block an attack, she does so. She realized that Xia Guishuan had prepared a very good thing. A general appeared and ordered a quicker cleanup and control of the place. Xiaorao was very glad that her sister was all right. That bastard Zhou really scared her. Yang Wuyue began to calm her down, saying that nothing would happen to her. She also told the general that the turtle shell on him was actually an illusion. She asked if they would capture him for real, and then return him or what else they would do. He wouldn't believe that Yin Xiaorao really did it, but it didn't matter if there was a real turtle shell or not. He tried to kill the commander. Afterward, she noticed a small demon nearby. He looked so much like the one who rescued her from the underground cave. Xiaorao asked why she was suddenly staring at her Guishuan like that. The commander replied that it was nothing. She asked the girl if her boyfriend had left recently. Xiaorao replied that he had danced with her. That guy's cultivation is terrifying, and for him to split his soul in half would be no problem. But to find out if he really is, you have to cast a rod. She asked Yang Wuyue why she didn't go to interrogate Zhou and handle the team's business, but went to her house to sleep. The girl asked if she wasn't pleased with her. The science and technology firm Blue Star Technology produces alternative energy sources without pollution. Designed by famous designer Hao Erde, unique appearance. Powerful performance on a single charge can travel 1,000 kilometers. The hovering car is similar to a flying sword, but much more spacious. A girl came in and asked Mr. Sia if he was awake. He didn't pay any attention to him and asked even if he was asleep what she had come here for. She can't flaunt everything like a vixen. Meanwhile, Xiaoru sneered and didn't realize who was talking about her. She needs to find out if it was him or not anyway. She walked closer to him and asked him what he was looking at. The guy replied that he was looking at some technology. Yang Wu Yue asked if she looked good. The protagonist replied that this option was more educational. And when the girl asked about herself, but he just kept silent. A girl came to him dressed like that and he doesn't even react. But she'll go all the way. She just needs one touch to be sure. But the protagonist beat her to it and replied that there was no need to check anything. He is the very man she is thinking of. She was very surprised that she recognized it herself. Then what was the point of becoming like a girl of indecent behavior? Xiaoru walked into them and asked if he would drink the juice. She wondered if she was turning green. But then she rid herself of those thoughts. She remembered that she had nothing to do with this guy. It's over. She's been caught red-handed, and it's embarrassing to show her eyes. She decided to leave quickly. Xiao Rao asked Mr. Xia if Yang Wuyue's hand was soft to her. Shi Guixuan replied that it was quite soft. It turns out she was interrupting them. She even thought about giving the house to General Yang and Mr. Xia to have a nice night. After all, he's not even her boyfriend, and for some reason she's very angry. Before that, she had said she would give him money for the prescription. The girl still agreed to even give them money, but he doesn't need the money. He saw some houses in that botanical garden, so the guy assumed they were for workers, so he offered the girl to give him one house in a remote area. She was surprised that he wanted to move and live in the botanical garden. The protagonist replied that he really likes it there. It is also in her neighborhood. Is he really having an affair with Wu Yue's sister? That's why he wants to move out. But this guy is insensitive. Even if a woman was completely naked in front of him, he would kick her out. The girl noticed that the guy was looking at her, absolutely not taking his eyes off, and thought that he thought she was beautiful. But the protagonist replied that it was none of her business, even if she was beautiful. Now that he is done pretending to be her boyfriend and the recipe is ready, then he can go live in the garden today. He just thinks that a woman who lives alone and without guards, then she will need to be able to defend herself. So the main character keeps an eye on her. He offered to teach her the art of immortals. This guy does whatever he wants. However, the transformation technique is fun. The same can be said for the levitation technique and the summoning technique. Xiao Rao replied that she would like to learn, but then she needs a teacher. The protagonist noticed that she has pretty good innate fox abilities. That's why it's a shame to waste them. But this girl is not suitable for him as an apprentice. She hasn't even called him teacher yet, and he's already sighing. He told her to come over to check her potentials, and also he would select the right Dao for her. After all, it's a shame to waste Fox's talent. If he just wanted to touch her, he could have just said so. He even pretends not to take students. Maybe this guy is just afraid he can't do anything with you, teacher-student. But suddenly he just threw her right out onto the couch. She was surrounded by robots telling her not to move. The girl didn't understand how he controlled them since she had all the remote controls. He inquired if she had ever heard of puppet technology. All it takes is a good study, and all the plants and animals in an organic garden can become her guards at her one call. Even a blade of grass can bind her enemy. She wanted to learn how to do it. She needs a good workout. It would already be good if her little spiritual power could temporarily influence one robot. It is extremely rare for true immortal cultivators to reach the realm from Qianyuan in 3,000 years. And humans do it in 100 years through genetic evolution. However, the cultivation of the immortal Tao is based on the fact that the spirit and body are finite, but the mind is infinite. The lifespan can theoretically be infinite. If you don't want a human body, no problem, because you can change the bodily shell. He had created this technique specifically for her. She marveled at how he was able to take out the jade tablet so easily. It's a storage ring, so she can consider it a welcome gift. She could even speculate that he had given her that ring as a marriage proposal, but she immediately realized that she couldn't move that fast. The kid arrived at his new home and realized the place was pretty big. Surrounded by forest and mountains, it is a peaceful and pleasant place to live. This is his habitat from now on. He beckoned Fat Tiger to come this way. That tiger immediately started running towards him. The boy explained that he shouldn't worry, because after all his father is a god. He will give this tiger some energy to absorb if he guards the main entrance. This vixen was born with a divine bloodline created for enlightenment. In the future, she would be able to transform into a nine-tailed forest. But he would probably have to constantly give her pills for a successful result. It was likely that if she used this treasure to prepare pills, she would be able to increase their levels even with ordinary healing remedies. She didn't understand what this guy wanted when he suddenly called her here. She immediately noticed the host start to appear. She was wise not to approach him. Otherwise, the repulsion he emitted would have been enough to kill her. He also brought some materials for making pills and weapons. He said to find a batch for him, and if he couldn't find something, she could mark it. He also inquired from us about the cultivation level of the senior members of her Heaven's Path sect, and also whether she possesses the supreme technique. The girl replied that their founder's cultivation was unfathomable, and only he possessed top-level techniques. But it wouldn't be a problem for him to show a supreme technique for her when she became a sect master. She thanked the master and really wants to become a sect master. After she repays the debt, she asks the master to remove the slave seal. After all, being a sect master who is someone's slave is no better than not being a master at all. But she is already his slave, and he wondered why on earth she thought she could bargain. If that's the case, Jue can only submit to him. The girl asked how she could contact the owner if she got the tech. The protagonist replied that if she said the word Xia Guishuan to herself 3 times, he would know immediately. But only a god can have that kind of power. Who is he after all? Suddenly a fox cub called back to him. She informed him that there was trouble. The Zhou family claimed that the reagents Xiaoru provided were stolen results of their research, and they sued the Gu family. Could it be that this guy is the lover Yin Xiaoro has here? Anyway, the image is ruined. The guy asked, why on earth would they dare to claim that? That reagent is completely provided by the Immortal Cultivators Association. This forces the Immortal Cultivators Association to directly side with the Yin family and allies to break with them. Someone in the Zhou family must have analyzed the formula and then used their bound. Now her family is blaming her and telling her to go back. He asked her not to be angry. Tomorrow he would return with her to the capital and give her support. Off they went, and the very next day they pulled up to the family's gate. She packed her car. The girl was also worried that her divine descendant's identity might be revealed, because there were so many people in the capital. But the protagonist replied that this would not happen and handed her a magic weapon for disguise. When the girl puts it on, no one will be able to reveal her. She fidgeted but thanked him. Xiaoro also didn't understand why he was giving her this ring or that necklace. She wondered if he even knew what it meant to give a girl this. The robot informed Ms. that identification was complete, so they could pass through. The captain of the guards, Wu Yang, replied that Ms. can enter, but outsiders are not allowed to enter. She replied that some security guard couldn't stop her from bringing in her boyfriend. Like every guy was allowed to come to her house, but someone yelled for them to get that kept man out of here. They seemed happy to do it. He immediately attacked the protagonist, but the kid shoved it away from him with just a finger. The captain is, after all, a strong third-stage genetic fighter, but he was sent flying with just a finger. How cruel. She feels so safe when he's around that she's not afraid of a 3-pronged inspection. How dare they even dare to do such a thing? Do they really think they can run around the capital just because they have some strength? The girl wondered if this old man was talking about himself, but they were told to stop. The Grand Sia has always been a place where power is paramount, so there was nothing wrong with him putting out that little shrimp. Then she wondered how dare he not fight back when other families bully them. Instead, he puts the blame on a relative because their family is weak. But she doesn't need to be angry. They really are in an emergency situation. A few days ago, there would have been a Tsang Lun sign in it. The fighting between the descendants of the gods, who had been plotting against each other all along, ceased to prepare for the arrival of the Father God. Once the Godfather comes to the descendants of the gods and becomes their unified leader, war between the human race and the descendants will become inevitable. So he wants people to think that she stole the potion from the Zhou family. And he doesn't want people to think she's related to the descendants of the gods. We have to pay the Zhou family a fortune. It's probably best to keep them in the spotlight. In compensation for this injustice, the family decided to give her the role of executive vice president of a virtual game company. The old man asked the elder to think twice. It's their main source of income. The elder told him to shut his mouth. Isn't he still not done bullying his descendants? He apparently really thinks he has such a high reputation. This Xiaoru guy looks strong, and it's very likely that he's also a descendant of the gods above the late Tang Yun stage. We need to tie it tightly to the Yin family. When the wind changes, they will become a treasure. He can't believe that the Vixen family isn't that stupid. She wanted to help him vent, but who would have thought that the elder was also planning to dig a hole in the Zhou family? However, she thought that the Yin family was a useless family. Then reasoned with the realization that she was right. She could just break up with them and avoid so much hassle. After all, she is only a fake member of the Yin family from her childhood. Even her parents don't know who she is. But he responded dryly. She turned to the guy and asked him if he could see that she was depressed. She can't believe he's just staring at that TV. This Lingmok Shui series is about the Taikan period of the Xia dynasty. It's a rare sight. He wondered if he would be able to see someone else play him. The girl noticed that it was a screen adaptation of the Xia dynasty novel she was finishing. However, the footage is pretty good, But why can't you see the Taikan? She thinks the rest of them are pretty enough to fit the original description. Still, in the original novel, the hero and heroine are eulogized as if they were immortals in the 9 heavens. He could even look like the real thing if he played it. Playing yourself is interesting. She was surprised that he had suddenly disappeared. Xiao Rao shrieked. How could this stinking dry man leave her alone like this? The main character immediately appeared, and Xue was already standing in front of him. The guy explained that he just wanted to ask about getting the lead role in the show she was starring in. He inquired if they needed an actor. She had already bought some of the copyrights to her recent TV series, so if he wanted to star, she could approve it. Did he really show up in the middle of the night just for that? He didn't even think it would be that simple. Guishuan told the girl to prepare everything, because he wanted to play the role of Taikan. Moshe will do whatever master requests, so she will ask the host to become an actor under her. If he signs that contract, he becomes her slave in a sense. As they walked, everyone took notice of them. She said to tell the scriptwriting team to prepare a Taikan script for the new actor's audition. They informed Ms. Lin that they had everything ready to go. The king and his ministers hunt the tiger, and Zhu throws herself furiously at Taikan. These are martial arts scenes, and she demonstrates Ms. Lin's charm. They didn't understand what it even was, and told him to follow the plot rather than change it blindly. The protagonist asked if Taikan didn't pierce a tiger 18 times with one arrow. Xue replied that this is also mentioned in the original. How can a tiger attack a king when the king and his subjects are out hunting? Adaptations can't allow the plot to go as they please. He thinks the fans won't scatter if he falls once. He wondered what the green background was and where the grass was, as well as the tiger. The man replied that he would just have to fall down, and the rest, not done later. The protagonist asked if there was no grass on the street. The man replied that it was there, but there were no tigers. That's not how he rearranged the safari from the story of Taikana. This can be easily remedied. He immediately decided to get his tiger out of the house. The man jumped up, for he did not realize where he had gotten this mutated tiger from. He was afraid that this tiger would bite. Guishuan replied that it doesn't bite. The cross-dressed Xue came out and told him to just try it. After all, it would already be more realistic. They started filming. A tiger pounced on them, but the protagonist just shooed him away. They started yelling that it was different in the script, but the guy apologized and replied that it was all reflexes. He also replied that Taikan, he should be like that, and it was the scriptwriter who wrote the nonsense. They started filming another scene. The girl reported to His Majesty that he sawed and hunted day and night, ignoring what was going on around him. The people are alarmed and the ministers are in confusion. He replied that a group of slaves had disobeyed and sacrificed to the heavens. She wanted to contradict him in some way, but the guy mentioned to Xue that he had been asked to choose a dungaree. He had heard of a eunuch from a poor family and asked what she thought of it. Tears came to her eyes. They praised the main character because his acting skills and temperament are amazing. It was as if Taikang himself had come down to see them. He wanted to offer the guy to be in their movie, but the girl replied that she needed a break from work. This guy can go far in this business. At today's meeting, Yin apologized to the Zhou family before being accused of colluding with the god's descendants. She realized that she needed to cut all ties with the Zhou family, and she would take care of that later. Meanwhile, young Wu Yue was busy burning down another laboratory. The old man asked her how dare she burn his family's private property. A blonde man appeared and explained that it was his order, and asked if there was any problem with that. But he was told that even the deputy commander of the Gongsun was not authorized to burn private property without reason. But isn't that enough of a reason? He replied that it was just a little research on modifying the human body. How could the deputy commander accuse him of conspiring with the descendants of a god? Such research requires the gene of a descendant of a god, so it is not clear how they can do such research without colluding with them. There are many mysterious things in the world, so he asked for proof. Xiao Rao provided evidence, namely the serum she stole from the Zhou family. He clearly didn't expect this development. Does the Zhou family have the blood of a descendant? Then this is the charge of the case. This blood is forbidden to circulate even in the capital. It is not available. They must have a shared secret with the gods. The old man started to make the excuse that it was a lie when a gun was already pointed at him. The girl stole the serum formula from his family. Does he really think the military is that stupid? It's no secret that the formula belongs to him. He explained that the Immortal Cultivators Association has proof. They can prove it. The association has no business with the Zhou family, so he should stop talking nonsense. They didn't understand at all why the Immortal Cultivators Association had turned their backs on him at a time like this. Young Wu Yue explained that one could easily prove whose serum was whose. We just need to check the fingerprints. This serum was only touched by the girl and the Zhou family. The nurse should check on her. Suddenly, something had already started flying at her. Yang Wuyue immediately ran to Xiaoru's aid, but it caught up with her. Fortunately, the ring saved her. She didn't even know this ring had that effect. It was clear that someone wanted to destroy the evidence. The general as well as her team advanced to where this attack came from, but they were too late. The only ones who can carry out this attack are the gods and the alien Celtic civilization. He asked Zhou Hongye if he had nothing more to say. The old man replied that he really had nothing to do with it. He already realized that it was all over. The Zhou family was guilty of conspiring with the enemy, so they must be captured and court-martialed. That black key didn't belong to a descendant of Liu Zi. He was beginning to assume that there was someone else hiding behind the scenes in the world. But now he has to go home. A girl arrived at his door and thanked him for the ring he had given her yesterday. She immediately asked how she could thank him. The protagonist asked if they had dealt with the enemy and if she was hurt. Xiaoru explained that through the virtual game, the patriarch contacted the deputy commander of Gongsun. The Zhou family was completely wiped out. He wondered what the game had to do with the patriarch. All she knows is that the military is watching the game to select good candidates. At least a third of the unit is selected that way. He even wondered very much what kind of game it was that they were playing to select candidates. If he wants to play, she will teach him after he returns to Sang Yui. And now their journey is finally over and it's time to go back. He told her to go back first, because he needed to stay here for 2 more days and do a movie. She asked if the video came out that fast. The 15th episode is out, and it's called The Big Summer Event. You could read comments about how she had never seen such handsome men before. Best Taikan, such an indifferent and evil nature, and it's just unbelievable. Everyone was talking about how newbie Taikan is handsome in today's episodes. The episode was how the tiger attacked Xu, after which the protagonist defended her, and the girl immediately reached up to kiss him. She too recognized that he was so handsome, and she was already completely in love with him. But then I found out that the main character is Xia Guixuan. She accused him of coming to the capital with her to get close to celebrities. But she was the one who suggested he act. In that case, she would be his manager from today. She said to show her the contract so she knew this guy wasn't being cheated. The Minister of Finance came to visit the Yin family and asked Ms. Xiao Ru to come. She wondered who it was and why she didn't know anything about it. The guy remarked that the girl thought he was the one attracting bees and butterflies, but she herself was not inferior to him. Is he really mad at her? Like the girl said, he's just her conditional boyfriend, but he decided to go along with her. Today, he found out that his family had such a beautiful offspring, so there was no way he could stop thinking about her. The man with blue hair asked his uncle to help him, but he'll have to say no, because Zhao Ru has a boyfriend. It doesn't matter, because they have seen that guy's documents, and he is a vassal of the Yin family, who has been trained since childhood. A young couple came in and the girl asked him why he even cared who she liked. They are very good together, so they should leave. This guy is just a servant and sooner or later the young lady will realize it. That's not true love. The protagonist asked if true love is when he breaks down the door, but he explained that it was normal. Miss Xiaorou must have feelings for him, and the longer they are together, the sooner she will forget about the protagonist. He didn't understand how anyone could be so shameless. Even the girl noticed that he was lying to himself. But his son is right. The Yin family should know who would be best for a son-in-law, a common servant or theirs. Xiaorou didn't understand when he had time to become a son-in-law. It's ridiculous because it's been 3 years. This son-in-law is no good for a Yin family. They didn't expect to see Ms. Lin here. He wondered what this senator's daughter was doing here. Is it possible that the servant is the son-in-law of the god of war? She explained that Xia Guixuan is her partner in the Taikan movie, and soon he will be the star that everyone will chase after. Therefore, how can he be the son-in-law of the Yin family? Some people have their eyes, but they can't tell the difference between gold. Anyway, he and Zhao Gongzi will be happy. Xiaorou asked who even said he was the son-in-law. He's actually her ex-husband, but he doesn't even deserve to be her boyfriend. After all, he is the son of the finance minister, so there is no point in ignoring him. The girls didn't understand what he was still doing here, since he should have been out of here by now. The protagonist realized that she had come here on another case. No one understood who this Ling Mokshu that followed him was. As they retired to another room, he asked her if she was only building these illusions because he had been kind to her for the past 2 days. She replied that it was because she had forgotten her place and asked to be punished. The master wants what the mistress wants. The servant should not interfere with that. No one has the right to decide anything on his behalf. They would discuss the punishment later, but now she had better get up because Xiao Ru was here. She explained to Shui that she was his agent. Their acting company is going to use people, but they need to deal with her first. If she wants to read it, let her read it. But there's no need to be picky because it's too late. The company undertakes to provide the actor with a special team of assistants and to bear all expenses. All expenses related to the actor's promotion are borne by the company. All income is shared between the actor and the company. Also, the actor does not have to pay any other fees. The actors have the right to reject an unreasonable request from the company. She realized that this contract was unprofitable for them. Even for real stars, they don't organize this kind of thing. She showed him the material the gentleman had instructed her to buy. If he didn't need anything else, she would leave immediately. But he said he had something for her. It was a sword-enhancing pill. They didn't expect him to hold the tool of improvement so easily. Since she's on the path of sword cultivation, this pill is just the thing to help her. It will help lay the foundation and become a guiding star for her heart. Did he really want her to find the materials for this particular pill? He didn't want anything from her to begin with. Sue and the guy's relationship is a little different from what she had already imagined. But if he lacks raw materials for cultivation, then why not ask Xiaorao specifically for help? The rest of the material will be different for her when this little vixen can finally soar into the clouds. Her Guchuan family is very nice. Now Shui probably doesn't have time to shoot, so she offered to go home together. He didn't mind. One day later, if he wants to play virtual games, her game room is at his disposal. He asked if he should just lay in the thing. She replied that yes. He just needs to get in. Then he has to determine his power level and turn on automatic matching. He can deal and she'll go. It's said that human genetic warriors are using this to cultivate. This is a great opportunity to figure things out. He entered the game world. The girl decided to check his physical form and his current physical status. He didn't expect that Ling Mo Zhu would be the one to voice all of this. She said again about his current physical status, but didn't continue. Hesitantly, she hovered. His level must be too high, beyond the comprehension of this machine. So he decided to simulate the physical strength of an ordinary guard, a level 3 warrior whose specialty is strength and resilience. A user change was also detected. She asked if it required him to select a section and move the offline point. The protagonist replied that it was not necessary, it just needed to log in directly. He was caught in the interstellar era. He realized something was wrong here. There were naked girls swimming there. They started yelling about a pervert being here. They should catch him and not let him escape. He couldn't figure out if the woods were really taking a bath in the game. How could she even relax in a place like this? They started looking for this guy. He's running pretty fast. The girl asked what the system said about the Tom who had just shown up at their door. How could a man even come in here? The system says it was a girl. It looked like this man really did have long hair. He has strength and muscles, broad shoulders, powerful back arms like a bulky man. How could it be a girl? 10 minutes later, he had barely broken away. If it weren't for his power control, far beyond his level, he would have been caught long ago. He can't even remember the last time he ran away from someone like that. It's pretty interesting. Suddenly he realized he had stepped into a trap, but he escaped that trap with ease. Suddenly, there was a girl who was ready to attack him, but he struck her first. He asked the girl what she was doing and why she had set up this ambush. Though if you remember what had just happened in the bathhouse, it wasn't surprising that he'd been attacked. She just wanted to test his abilities. She had recently gotten stuck in one location for a long time, so she wanted to find a player to help her in battle. If he helped her through this location, he could choose whatever he wanted. He agreed because it sounds pretty interesting. This is a good opportunity for him, learn more about this game. She'll start by sending him an invitation to join the team. The notification window said he had been invited to join the team. He accepted the invitation. After which they moved to the abandoned mound. The Dark Archer called Ning Ning and the Elementalist Ziluna were already here. He asked who the two men were. The girl replied that she had hired them, because eventually they would need help during the passage. They immediately recognized Taikan, who was in the movie with Xu. If I had told her right away that she would have to fight alongside Taikan, she would have paid him herself. It was obvious that these girls were his fans. He tried to calm them down and didn't understand why they were so enthusiastic. She didn't even pay attention and realized he was the one who played the role of Taikan. He looks similar, only she doesn't know how she should react now, the girl asked, wondering if she too had watched Dak Xiao's past. In fact, she wrote the book herself. They couldn't believe that author De Xiao Miao himself was standing in front of him. She really didn't know she was that popular. They saw him heading somewhere. The protagonist explained that he was going to help pass the location so they could go back and get stronger. They asked him to wait. She had been offline before and had managed to face the bosses. He shouldn't be so impulsive. Inside a giant battleship, he began to climb up to the boss through his attacks, after which I ended up on his head and struck him a blow. The girls came already when he defeated that boss. This guy is very strong, so handsome. It was amazing that he just smeared the boss. Even though the boss has been destroyed, the mission is still not over. In the story, the mission has to do with interstellar warfare. The warship FGT-14 has been captured by Zelt monsters. Now they play as special units, which must regain control of the ship and destroy the nest of these creatures. She put down the red stone. The system sent a notification that the automatic reboot process has started. They were alerted that a large number of unidentified beings were coming, so they all have to take their positions. He immediately hit his first opponent who wanted to attack the girl. The other girl threw him a gun. It was a Gauss cannon. He decided to test it out. This high-tech weapon that can break everything down to molecules is pretty good. Even the word good can't fully describe this gun. The console is about to be repaired and the operating system is about to launch. Changing the travel route, create a new plan. She put the top speed right into the nest. They were already very close to the nest. The system sent a notification that the mission is complete. Passing level SSS, perfect sweep of the locations. An additional reward is being issued, after which they walked out of this dungeon. Did it really only take them 2 minutes to complete the level from start to finish? She had said that Taikang's brother was very strong. Speaking of which, it was a level 4 strength boss. She didn't understand how the guy managed to deal with him in a few seconds, while only being at level 3. It was very simple. He explained that every creature had vulnerable points, and he simply directed all his efforts at those points. He didn't just attack the weak points, he just flattened them. He's very strong, so it's a shame he's not serving for the good of his country. She suggested that he join a special military unit. He replied that it was impossible, and asked if Taikan in her book could not molest Chang. It should completely change the plot. The girl replied that this was unacceptable. She, who is the author, cannot just change the story, although she can add a few things to the story to keep him satisfied. She was on her way out, so she said goodbye to everyone. General Yang arrived at the deputy teacher's house, for he had been looking for her. He asked her opinion, this video. His acting is at a high level, and he feels like this guy is doing a good job with his character. As for Shu, he doesn't think so. She wondered why the deputy teacher was so lax today. He asked if the general knew this actor. She replied that it was Xia Guishuan, who is Yin Xiaoru's boyfriend. Of course she knows him. Right now, the Interstellar Wars Games Surveillance Department is reporting that Xia Guishuan is now there as a level 3 warrior. He's reportedly quite capable. The special unit needs people like him. The girl knows him well, and it would be wise to invite him here. She is ready to begin this assignment. He decided to leave the game. The protagonist swept up that this virtual game, a rather unique experience. He decided to go to see what the little fox was doing. She asked how long he'd been in the game. She also asked if he had left because he was not interested, or because the girl with glasses didn't want him anymore. He wondered how on earth she knew there was a girl with glasses. Had he forgotten that she is the spirit of the fox? Of course she knows everything. She's the vice president of a gaming company. Does he think it's hard for her to recognize what he was doing there? She suggested we go together to run some errands. She must have forgotten that there's only one game booth. The design of the company is very comfortable to use. 2 people can fit in there comfortably. She asked if he wanted to try it. The system sent him an alert that he had a new video request. It was Yang Wuyue. She explained that his superior had suddenly ordered him to be invited to a special military unit. So the girl inquired about becoming a counselor. Does she really want her family member to become a subordinate of Yang Wuyue? Xiaoru asked how dare she even do that. He had already agreed to join, so he would be her counselor. Wu Xiaoju really is in the army. Otherwise, Yan Wu Yue wouldn't have found him as soon as he went offline. The information will be put into the file immediately, and she thinks the family will dare say he's their son-in-law again. Let them see its power in action. Before she becomes offline on, then decided to give him one piece of advice for the video. Since Taikan is an emperor, it would not be strange if he had several concubines. She recommends changing the XU part and filming the bed scene. Xiaorao replied that it wasn't that kind of video. What the hell is she thinking? She replied that she didn't know anything and her mission was complete, so she was going offline. He's now a rising star and a senior officer. Poor little Vixen is no use to him now. Better cut the crap. He doesn't make friends based on their usefulness to him. She'd better keep cultivating her development in the same way. A week later, Thanks to her master's guidance, she has been progressing and improving her sword technique by kilometers. And today was a real breakthrough. Guy explained that it was because she was very talented and perfect for the swordsman path. The girl immediately knelt down and replied that she didn't even know how he should repay him for all of this. She also reminded her that the master must punish her for her past deed. If it could really be said that way, she really owed him for that scene she refused to play. She decided to set those things up now and decided to go straight to the last dialogue. They received a notification that the history chapter of Di Xiao had been updated. The girl can't believe the chapter just got renewed. She also asked if they should film it right away. The story goes that Taikana's eyes are so unusual, so tender that you can drown in them without ever seeing his intentions. And at that moment, the characters kiss. The girl grabs Taikan by the collar and pulls him to her. Taikan leans toward her, helping her remove her clothes. Is this really the kind of plot he was supposed to like? So she did it. If the plot makes her so uncomfortable, they don't have to film it. But she replied to the master that it was okay. As actors, they have to play their part. She started to think she should be now. Should she wrap her arms around him and hug him first? It's her first kiss. They were immediately in character, and the girl replied that if Henge couldn't do it, she could. The guy asked if she was sure she could do it. The girl grabbed his clothes and kissed him. She asked His Majesty if she really didn't look as good as she did. He put his arm around her. There were already angry women standing behind them. She asked this perverted man what she wanted to do with the Lin president. She explained to the president that this man intended to take advantage of her. The girl replied that she was doing it because she wanted to. But it was her first bed scene. She had never filmed a drama like this before. She told her to shut up and get to work. This girl shouldn't mess up her plans. For a special military unit. He reported that he had stationed a master on the southwestern coast. A strange beast had suddenly risen from the sea, destroying mountains and cities in its path. They suspect this beast has something to do with the gods. Commander Yan arrived to join them for the shoot. Zhu immediately asked Yan Wuyue what miracle brought her here. Xia Guichuan had mentioned last time that he knew about the movements of the gods. The southwestern coast was now swarming with monsters, and she asked if he wanted to go with her to see for himself. Since it was an order from an elder, he couldn't disobey. But it's urgent, so he has to say goodbye to his girlfriend, because they need to set off now. Many ships were destroying this monster, but it was all for naught. They began to retreat immediately, but it was already too late. How should they even fight with Qianyuan-level gods? Fortunately, Commander Yang showed up. She used her fire to sneak through the water curtain, right up to the monster's shell. The protagonist observed this while talking about how she was still just as belligerent. She immediately ran into that monster's block. He didn't forget about attacking her either. These beams are so powerful, they could easily break through a coastal defense line. And she wondered why he was staying here. The monster replied that he had only come here to convince them to surrender. She had been in the capital for a long time, so they had to resort to this trick to lure the general here. She has gone deep into the sea in pursuit of him, and is in greater danger now. Though she may not realize it. As a result, it will take at least 5 minutes for the men who are supposed to be covering her to get here. Yang Wuyue asked, so what? He asked why cling to this human world. From the moment the dragon appeared in the sky, they built an altar to their father god, and called upon him for a period of 977 days. At last he came to them. As a descendant of the Scarlet Bird, doesn't she want to worship Godfather and join them to restore their homeland? She didn't expect God the Father to come down. It was clear he was joking, and the main character didn't show up at that altar. The girl asked if they weren't afraid she would tell people about the Father God approaching. Even if humanity is prepared, does she really think she'll be able to stop it? The father of all gods is definitely Tai Qin. If he comes with his full strength, mankind has no chance. The general herself knows that if she loses her guard and doesn't get the support of the Gongsun family, she might become a research subject for the humans and they will put her in a lab. She also has to guess how many people would like to pass on and kill her. The only thing she has to do to become a minister of her country is to kneel to her father god and fold to him. But this is where he is wrong. The girl asked if he really believes that Gongsun is the only one who believes in her. She fought for this country for hundreds of years, and many people remember that. She grew up on this land, and this is her home. Even if Godfather himself comes down and wants to destroy this city, he must first talk to her spear. If he has said everything, he should go back to where he came from. When God the Father comes, they will fight again. Soon, the commanders realize whose side they should have chosen. Monster is sure she'll change her mind. He disappeared immediately. A subordinate flew up to her and asked the commander if the battle was over. If you think about it, aside from the first explosion, there was almost no battle. She saw that these people were not even in a hurry. The girl asked what they would do if they were fighting to the death. The man replied that they would have had to report to their superiors at headquarters first to start the rescue operation. So he went in to help her. She decided to go see this boss of his. Meanwhile, the protagonist decided to show himself off. The same monster greeted the father of all gods. He can't be wrong. It was the aura passed down through the bloodline. But now the old man didn't understand what about that dragon. It seems like that godfather that this old man was talking about is really him. At first, he was sure that his divine divination was so strong that he would immediately recognize him. Therefore, he couldn't even imagine that an impostor would appear. The old man explained that that dragon had only revealed itself on the 49th and 77th summoning. It was a blue dragon. Its aura was very similar to his. He wondered who had played this play out on purpose. He asked the old man if he knew why the protagonist did not join them as soon as he came down. The old man replied that he dared not guess the will of the father of all gods. As soon as he would appear to them, they would immediately bow the knee and begin to serve him. What's he supposed to do with them afterward? Does he really have to watch them fight the humans, take over the stars, attack the Celtics, and sweep the galaxy under their feet? The old man asked, wondering if there was any problem with that. He's been emperor for so long, and he's done the same thing over and over again. It was better to be an ordinary man and experience their modern technology. The old man realized that God the Father was not exactly as he had imagined him to be. He has a bad feeling about what happened today. Is it true that he only came to lure Yan Wu Yue? He wouldn't dare to deceive the godfather. They also have spies among the humans, and by making a small provocation, they could undermine the Yang commander's confidence. After that, a large-scale attack could be launched. Maybe he has such a premonition because Yang Wu Yue will be killed by humans. However, he better not underestimate her. Southwest Coast Command Center. She turned to Commander Zhang and asked if he was the one who ordered the soldiers to fight to the last drop of blood. It was a real massacre out there. His duty is only to prevent the beast from breaking through to the coast, and he has done a fine job of it. This man is the commander of the Southwest Military District. He immediately asked General Yan if she was dating that demon and if she was in cahoots with him. She asked how dare he talk such nonsense. He accused her of secretly communicating with the gods who are their enemies. Therefore, Yan Wu Yue must be eliminated immediately. She was immediately surrounded. This dragon hasn't backed down, and he's just waiting to see what they'll throw out. He believes they will do something stupid so he can attack again. When she goes to court-martial, even he can't imagine how many will want her dead. But if she cooperates with him, maybe no one will ever find out. But she slapped him. He ordered her to be bound. He wanted to see if he could tame her. She is very disappointed in this commander. More people arrived at their place at her signal. A former member of the 7th Squadron of the 4th Division Starguard Squadron. A former member of the 76th Assault Unit. A former member of the East China Sea Guard Division waited for her instructions. The commander began to explain that this was wrong, as they should obey him. She ordered me to get the bastard. Now she will be considered a rebel. She can only wait for the E to come for her and die a horrible death. Apparently, due to immense vanity, he had completely forgotten his place. She is an important officer in the army, and this position is far above commander. According to wartime rules, she can take over the place to continue to hold the defense. She ordered that pig to be thrown in jail. The girl doesn't want to listen to his nonsense anymore. They should also tell the deputy commander-in-chief to get the troops ready to go. They should tie him up, and didn't these people hear what General Yan said? She doesn't want to hear his piglet squeal. He saw the man taking off his sock and asked what he was going to do. He put that sock right in his mouth, talking about how he is a bastard who is a corrupt official. He's even disgusted to look at him. Commander Zhang had been taken into custody and was in full possession. The man asked what they should do next, and the general replied that she had informed the deputy commander-in-chief and was awaiting further instructions. God's father had come down and they must act. She ordered them to regroup and prepare their weapons. This line of defense is now a useless line of defense. Considering how strong the Qianyuan levels were, why wouldn't they land directly on the mainland? He wondered why on earth they were hiding here. The old man noted that the reason was because once they got into an open confrontation with the humans, they would use everything they had. Once they take over the cities, the humans will do everything they can to destroy these places with nuclear weapons and explosions as they leave. There will be no winner in this fight, because there will be nothing left to fight for. He is very judicious, and so the guy inquired about what he was going to do this time. Originally, they were not going to destroy the country, Everyone had their own motives, but they were fighting for territory and for resources. This time, the dragon god needs the pearl to get into the Taikan kingdom. In ancient times, they used to produce here, so they have to capture this place. If so, the next step will be a battle to destroy the entire country. The protagonist wondered if he even understood what a war of annihilation was. Why was he even thinking when he came to fight here? He apologized to God his father, and replied that he had just come here, and had not had time to understand many things. He had heard that people were ruthless and merciless when they were angry. He thought it was just a turf war. He believes that God the Father has a negative view of the gods on the side of the people. After all, many bad things are said about them. The guy confirmed that this is true, however he doesn't think it's their fault. He thinks someone is deliberately inflaming the relationship between humans and gods. He is certain that something important happened here 24 years ago. If this issue is not resolved, it will be difficult to come to an agreement. He didn't understand why the father of all gods was interested in this world. If he liked human technology so much, O could destroy humanity and play as much as he wanted. Shaguishuan replied that humans were also his descendants. The humans are preparing for war, and the dead are planning an attack and landing on the mainland. Both sides are sharpening their knives and preparing to destroy each other. He asked this old man what he thought it looked like exactly for the main character. It's as if his own children are fighting amongst themselves. As their father, he can barely hold back from finishing this old man off. He asked not to do that, and he needs to talk to Yang Wu Yue. She will understand the situation. He asked if there was a cultivator behind his back who was in charge of this battle. The protagonist said to immediately take him to him. They went there at once, but apparently they can't go there. The guy realized he was one step late. It was a pretty powerful attack. Command center. She ordered the activation of the air-to-air wave defense grid. They should have the photon cannons ready. She was informed that defense preparations were complete. Suddenly, a giant whale appeared in the Qianyuan realm. He began destroying their ships. The girl ordered that the groups on the coast be notified of the possibility of an earthquake. Have them take appropriate action. All air fighters should cover her. She'll be 30 miles away at the direction of 5 o'clock. They must prepare for battle and destroy him. The girl immediately attacked him to his death, but the whale made a huge wave. They began to increase their firepower. After all, they need to cover General Yan. It's not often you get to see technology against immortal techniques. This is a truly unique battle. God's father said he wanted to stop the war, but he's just been watching it for half a day. He asked the main character if he was going to help one side, but there's no need for his help, because they're about equal. Therefore, they won't be able to defeat each other. He doesn't want to miss out on all the fun, but there's one thing he still can't understand. Why the gods started this war if they can't be sure of their victory? He doesn't understand what he's missing. The old man has told him everything he knows, and he's not hiding anything. The boy knows this, for he would not have had the courage to do it. He sensed something. He will then ask him about the people above them now. They're getting closer. It was either a third-level immortal realm or a follower of the path of magic. The boy asked Luan Chu why he didn't participate in the battle, even though he was so eager to fight before. Does he want to wait for his death? As it turns out, it was the second priest. And now Luan Chu will definitely die. Godfather must protect him, because he's the reason he's not in the war. He shouldn't worry. But for now, he doesn't want people to know his real identity. He replied to the second priest that he didn't want to delay, all because it was the man who had prevented him from joining the battle. Did a formless realm now exist among humans? He dared to ask who he was. The protagonist replied that he is a messenger of men. He wants to see his godfather, for he has important matters to discuss with him. I wonder if this priest wants to test him, but he is still too weak. He's only reached the early stages of formlessness, but no matter how you look at it, he straight up radiates power. The guy asked if he wanted to make peace. He even suggested that the Gongsun commander-in-chief was still alive, so that was why he was here. Do they really think that the Hun must die? Now I see why they are landing their troops this way. Gongsunji has been their target all along. Once he is eliminated, the people will literally be decapitated and will have to surrender. So it all makes sense. The boy heard the little servant calling him. He needs to check if the Gongsun is okay. So he decided to share his soul. The kid replied that he was a little distracted and asked what this priest's name was. As it turned out, his name was Ling Yuan. The protagonist introduced himself as Guishuan and replied that he was a movie star. She's already said everything. Even if she's a puppet, she can't exist separately. So she'd rather die. There's a huge power differential between them. She has tens of thousands of ways to make her submit. But suddenly she lowered that sword from her hands. That sword flew into his hands, and as it turned out, it was a Dao Tai sword. The guy thought he had lost it in the void a long time ago, but it was still here. He really can hear her call, so he wasn't lying. The girl asked him to save her. The protagonist asked if he had ever cheated on her. She asked who he was, and why he showed up in the form of a divided soul. And how does he even know what kind of sword it is? Divided souls are very powerful. Could it be that this person is the Qian Yuan realm? And the sword has something to do with him. Because she can sense it. She thought it was the forefather. Shui replied that she was bullying her, forcing her to help the gods kill Gongsun. Shu is not under mind control, which means that behind her back is the godfather. If the forefather gets angry with her, she won't live. Fortunately, it's only his spirit. The body is elsewhere. That's why she thinks she has a chance to escape. But a seal appeared over her that would not let her go. If she was from the shapeless realm, she'd have a chance to escape. And all her abilities, created in his image. She then gave it away, and would not be able to free herself from its shackles. The girl replied that she was wrong. She asked the father of all gods to forgive her. She called herself a blasphemer, and asked what would happen to her if she tried to escape again. Does she think it's sacrilege to resist him? These guys make up their own rules. He believes that the desire for freedom and the desire to go beyond is a trait that is inherent in Taoism and all followers of the way of the Tao. On the contrary, he would understand her attempt to avoid it. But she must explain herself, how she dared to take his name to bask in his glory. She deceived his descendants to fulfill her selfish desires. That's where her guilt lies. He asked Xu what kind of punishment this girl deserved. I also replied that she should be labeled a slave. She is ready to accept her fate and serve the father of all gods. But this planet was originally inhabited by the gods. Now most of it has been taken over by humans. They want to unite all the disparate deities and reclaim what was rightfully theirs. Isn't that selfish? He doesn't care, because she was being used and she didn't know what she was doing. She should listen to what happened while they were talking here. Someone is trying to kill Chief Gunsun. We need to go to the east side of the city right away. It wasn't her fault. The girl argued that it really wasn't her doing. Even if she had been manipulated, she wouldn't have dared to do such a thing without his permission. He knows it wasn't her or even the gods that did it. Someone's behind the scenes pulling the strings. That's the person he's trying to find. Now it doesn't matter if the murder succeeded or failed. People will still blame the gods for it. A war of annihilation could start at any moment. This whole situation was carefully planned. And now that she's found out about it, she has to help him deal with it. He's too lazy to be distracted. But the flying swords have struck again. They must protect the commander-in-chief. But those swords broke through the defenses. Suddenly the protagonist appeared and beat them back. It took a while, but he's glad he caught up with him. He seemed to be glad that Xiaguoshuan had saved him. He wanted to report the assassination attempt to his deputy, but he hoped they would have a chance to talk privately later. They immediately ran up to the commander-in-chief and asked if he was injured. Gongsun replied that he was fine. These demons are already outnumbered. They're ready to fight them to the death. Until the investigation is complete, we need to report to the head of state that the situation is under control. The rest of us will follow him back to headquarters. When he gets back, he's going to talk to the captain alone. He forbids anyone to interfere. Even if the commander comes, they have to stop him. A level 3 soldier remains calm after sustaining such an injury. What is interesting is that he does not panic at all and continues to think soberly even in such a situation. It is not for nothing that he holds the post of deputy commander-in-chief. There is no one else here, so he offered to start with their conversation. The protagonist ordered them to come out and show them who the real killer was. The two girls immediately appeared with another person. They couldn't get him alive. He sealed his essence and destroyed his soul on his own. He's from the Society of Immortals known as the Heavenly Path. So the person who attempted to assassinate him is indeed of divine origin. But the girl replied that it wasn't really. This is the oldest sect of the Heavenly Path sect. A human cultivator who perfects his skills at the top of the Henyang mountain. He really hadn't expected it to be human. This man is a spy who has been turned. In reality, they are all gods in disguise. Godfather has truly amazing powers. He doesn't know how many others he has turned this way, but when he gains strength, it will echo in every one of his followers. This assassination attempt is just the beginning. She knows that this assassination attempt is an order from the elder himself and has nothing to do with the sect. Gongsun asked who this girl was and how she could know about the heavenly path. She is the head of this sect, one of the 4 priests, and her name is Shang Zhao. From the look in his eyes, she realized he didn't even believe it. There's really no evidence of that right now. And even if the deputy believes it, it is not certain that the rest of the top of humanity will do the same. He decided to get the whole story. Let the elder tell it himself. Does he really want to explore his soul? But how can it be done if he is already dead, and now it is impossible? Though the soul is shattered into small pieces, nothing can shatter time, which means he'll look into his past. The search for the lineage of the gods left in Daxia was unsuccessful. They could not find the king's suspected daughter. Although Yin Xiaoru may be a fox spirit, it is a lazy and carefree person who does not seek power. Even if she is a true descendant, he doesn't want this idiot to become a king. They don't have to say anything to Godfather. Let her quietly continue to enjoy her life. They just won't interfere. Idiot is very much a fair comment from an elder. This elder is to the protagonist's liking. Gongsun had never heard of the time travel back technique. Xia Guixuan's strength is completely unfathomable, and even the Heaven's Path sect respects him. He wondered what kind of person he was. The man reported to her that the potions were here again. If Gongsun doesn't die, humanity will never fall. Therefore, the Lord must deal with him as soon as possible. But she would rather control him to use him for their purposes. It's not that hard to control a level 3 fighter. She forbade him to act without her orders. The leader didn't approve of the killing of Gunsun, believing that the time was not yet right, and he could have come to them. Lydia waits for the best opportunity to make the next move, so he is forced to obey her. This wench wants to wait, but that wasn't his plan at all. His pupils turned red. The protagonist hadn't fully regained his strength yet, so he might have missed some details. However, Gongsun should have already understood everything. The elder's mind was controlled by the potion, and the assassination attempt had nothing to do with the gods. He is able to travel back in time, even when not at the limit of his powers. Who else could it be but the father of all gods? But if that's true, then whose side is he on now? Probably best not to ask in case he supports the descendants of a god. Better to pretend he didn't understand. Despite being incited and used as a puppet, he remained true to his faith and godfather to the end. Shang Zhao wondered how they could be so calm seeing their follower die. Had they just squeezed all the goodness out of him and would now just throw him out? What then is the difference between them and the Zelts? They keep talking about fairness and neutrality, but in the end, they take the side of the humans. The guy asked what else he needed to do if he was already dead. Shui replied that she wasn't ignoring him. She just wanted to get back the soul that was destroyed because of Shan Zhao. Zelti used a mind-altering technique that scatters a person's soul throughout the body so that it cannot be united. But in doing so, it disappears. It can be brought back to life by finding a way to reunite the soul. At first, he wasn't sure if the man deserved to be saved, so he went back in time. Not all people are the same, and not everyone deserves a second chance. However, now he sees that he was used and had a good heart. Also, he is satisfied with Yin Xiaoru's evaluation. Naturally, he will not sit idly by it. Soul unification requires a special herb called Bright Night. Then the main character noticed the look in Gongsun's eyes and realized what this guy wanted. And for him to get them out of here, he sent Shang Zhao and Shui to find this herb. The two of them could do it much faster. Now they were gone, and he could tell him anything he wanted to. But before doing so, he must remove his clothes. Gongsun didn't understand why he had to take off his clothes. But it's okay, because there's nothing unnatural about nudity. It's hard. Is this guy really not embarrassed by anything? He asked if a grown man is afraid of being taken away naked. If he is pretending to be a man, he is willing to play along a bit. He's the deputy commander-in-chief, so he doesn't have to undress for no reason. He has a severe wound on his back, so the protagonist is going to heal him. Gongsun asked if he could tell about the treatment right away. He thanked Captain Zia. The damage is heavier than Guichuan thought. The willpower of this deputy deserves respect. Now he asked to be told what he wanted the main character of the asset to escort those two out for. Apparently, the deputy had something to tell him. The Zelts have gone to great lengths to provoke a war between the humans and the followers of the gods to take advantage of the situation and gain an advantage. Both sides must unite if they want to overcome the crisis. And so he wants Guixuan to go to the gods to negotiate to resolve this conflict. That's a really good idea. The dragon's energy flowed in his body. He had wondered why there were magical artifacts on his clothes, but now it was clear that their purpose was to hide the aura. Now that he was supposedly severely injured, they could take advantage of the situation and let down the enemy's guard. He asked Captain Xia if he was willing to take on the task of reconciling the human race and the descendants of the gods. If he is the true God the Father, you will end us soon. If not, he will not allow the one above the formless stage to stand beside his descendants. He'll do as the deputy commander orders. Since we're running out of time, he'll issue a special warrant, so the boy will go as soon as he brings this elder back to life. He expects good news from him, so he must come back safe and sound. The girls came back with this herb. He's awake. She was glad that Elder Fan was alive. He saw the patriarch and asked what had happened to him. Shangzhao replied that he had been killed, but God the Father was here and he had saved him. He thanked the Godfather for saving his life. Elder Fan would always be loyal to him. The main character knows he's loyal, even though he's a little dumb. Otherwise, he wouldn't even save him. He should step up because he's old, and he doesn't need to be in a time of crying. He wondered why someone had not shown him respect and obedience as well. Shangzhao replied that he appeared before her as a human, which was not convincing at all. If he wanted true obedience, he should at least show his dragon form. But who told her he was a dragon? The azure dragon is just a form of his essence, not his true form. What she sees before her is the original form. They clearly did not expect God the Father to be a man. How should they even accept that God fathered a man? He tried to reassure them somehow, and said that if it would comfort them, he had the blood of a fox in him. A lone fox came and she has 9 white and long tails. His grandmother was the rightful princess of the 9-tailed foxes in Tushan. That was ages ago. She began to say that things are starting to flourish with newlyweds. He was surprised that she knew the song from Tushan. Some of her blood was passed down by a former king, so she kind of inherited the blood of the 9-tailed fox and knows the song. So the last king was a fox. No wonder they were looking for fox descendants, and even chose Yin Zhao Ru as one of their targets. Mankind killed their king, causing them to fall apart. They want to find his blood so that the descendants of the god can come together, and they could only find Yin Xiao Ru. But they didn't expect her to be so stupid. Miss Patriarch, who also has the former king's blood flowing in her, can become a better leader. He didn't understand why these girls were looking at him like that. After all, it was true. Shangzhao replied that the head elder had a very long tongue and had forgotten something. Yin Zhao Ru is the girlfriend of the godfather. He insulted his father god and asked to take his life as punishment. Now he understands why the alien Zeltic can easily deceive and use them. By focusing too much on blood, they had created a weakness for themselves. 24 years ago, on the day the Demon King died, the conflict between humanity and the descendants of the god intensified. But how can they fall into the same trap 24 years later? Zeltic's using them. There must be something else behind the Demon King's death. The top priority is to end the war, which requires effort on both sides. He needs to see the Azure Dragon. And for now, a fiery one named Hong Yuan is bothering him. He orders Shan Zhao to send the dragon to the battlefield. The girl replied that she would take care of him. He will return to his body to enjoy the spectacle. But Jue replied that she had something to say to the teacher. She doesn't think Shan Zhao can be trusted. She serves the Fox King more than him. She needs to put the same mark on her slave. Then she would swear her devotion to him and serve him with all her heart. Shaguixuan asked if she could show it by example first. She decided to obey her master. The guy replied that he was just messing with her. He asked what about her equanimity. But how can she disobey her master's order when she has the mark of a slave? In response, the protagonist asked if she was sure there was a mark. Didn't he put a slave mark on her? Then how could he explain the cursed mark on her forehead? Looks like fear, and about her heart, due to absorbing his blood. She had always felt it around him, but she didn't understand it. Everything she did seemed to be sincere. We're the ones to modify her damn mark. Then he suddenly disappeared. That master is still bullying her. Ling Yun asked, does he really say that he is a traffic star? But he's just mocking. But the lad replied that it was so, and the second priest should hurry up and conduct him to his godfather. God's father would be arriving soon, so why don't they watch the battle for now? The boy agreed. Meanwhile, people kept trying to kill this monster. They were clearly in no mood to give up so easily. People are really strong. They couldn't even think about this 100 years ago. What kind of weak being that relies on science can really bring back the high level of the Qian Yuan realm? Does the second priest say this specifically to a human? It's all because he thinks that this guy isn't human at all. The human will is weak, so he can't reach the formless realm, and he has only achieved the rank of captain in the formless realm. Why doesn't he join Ling Yuan and work together for a great cause? Is he really going to betray the god of his father and replace him? Replacing the father god is a great attempt to conquer the heavens. Xia Guishuan admires his ambition. In addition to the overwhelming Selah, the leader of the descendant gods must possess a strong will, which can't be said about the godfather now. Even though Tsang Lun is a fake, but it still dares to sting him. The descendants of the god are born from the perception of the father god, so they have great respect for him. But the second priest not only has a deep prejudice against the father god, but also a demonic cultivation. He wondered what was going on. Understanding the way of heaven is not passed on to the goddess. This is what caused a different understanding. The path of heaven is not the same as the path of blood, murder, selfishness, and lust. And after seeing the godfather in his true form, he became convinced that the path he had learned to follow was the true path of the godfather. The guy asked if he was saying that demonic cultivation was the way of godfather. He recognizes selfishness, blood, and murder. But is he sure about lust? The very nature of the dragon is lustful. Godfather is a lustful man who has fun with women. Zhang Xiaoyi also appreciated him for his lustful manners. And why should he be loyal to an old man who doesn't understand to his deepest desires and uses power for personal gain? The second priest is right and should be punished. That fake Tsang Lun actually made such a statement to ruin her reputation as the main character. He can't stand it. But the one who took his name was probably someone familiar. He couldn't figure out who it could be. Vitya this confused look. He is also extremely disappointed in Godfather. Ling Yuan values the strong the most. A dragon suddenly appeared and told the priest that he was already on the battlefield and still hadn't finished them off. What is he even doing here? He ordered to quickly grab Yang Wuyue and he would take care of the naval guns. So why did the Godfather appear on the battlefield? Ling Yuan replied that his subordinates were following orders. No wonder she was able to fake his breathing. This is definitely it. The little girl told them to attack, for she was not afraid of the stinking guns of the humans. Ungrateful little girl. She really needs to be punished. Wu Yue noticed that Tsang Lun had appeared. Everyone needs to be on guard. Ling Yuan also entered the battle. The Tsang Lun appeared, and the descendants of the gods also began to participate in the war. They can't win. The man reported that the space cannon was ready. He fired a shot. She ordered all warships to turn on the Star Destroyer's cannons. All firepower on the dragon. They must shoot back and retreat. Now is not the time for battle, and as many lives as possible must be saved. She didn't understand why on earth everyone was shooting at her. She's not afraid of them, and these people can't intimidate her. But people kept shooting more and more. The two elders immediately left the epicenter of the explosion. God's father was wounded. They noticed that Tsang Lun is wounded, so they must prepare, retreating. He showed the protagonist that the people he serves are so cowardly that they back down. But the protagonist replied that this is what wisdom is all about. This is the wisest choice for the humans, for they need to withdraw from the battlefield and keep their strength. This human messenger played no role from beginning to end. If he returns, he won't be able to live for long. Why doesn't he go and stop Wu Yue to save Godfather? He still has a chance to survive. Thanks to the second priest for reminding him of that. Once he kills a human in the formless realm, then other humans will only become slaves and descendants of the gods. Besides, Tsang Lun is seriously injured, so he can use this opportunity to control her soul and take possession of her body. Saved as his puppet, he will become the new godfather. He waited for the brat to get his act together. The Ling Yuan snake bit him, and the guy asked if the second priest was afraid that he would go there too and reveal the true face of the godfather. He really sees through this level of attack to be knocked down by a maximum young Qian Yuan realm dragon, as it could be a godfather. Previously, he had guessed that he was at the late stage of the formless realm. It would be good to use him to get rid of this human helper, but now he was letting him go in case he actually killed him. He would use him as a puppet. He feels that the protagonist is really powerful and will never leave it to the humans to prevent them from fighting the descendants of the god. Mankind is destined to be servants of the descendants of God. This star belongs to the descendants of God, and the protagonist thought he might be a spy for the potions. Now he looks like a warmonger who wants to win the war to stay alive, even though they solve puzzles more interesting than exploring the soul or something. But his hair is really disgusting. But Ling Yuan was controlling his soul after all. Why did it suddenly stop working? The guy explained that it didn't work to begin with. His improvisation was pretty good. What kind of humanity can be such a terrifying helper? This guy can crush it even though he's also in the formless realm. Shang Zhao wanted to kill that fake dragon. It turns out that this girl also guessed that that god wasn't real. But worry not, for the father of all gods cannot die. He asked to borrow this hair for a while. He used his power to make that hair grow back. If she kills this traitor, she will fulfill her duty. She will finally gain the trust of her father's god. But suddenly the protagonist didn't let that happen. That dragon almost killed Yang Wuyue, but the kid called out to this dragon. He obeyed him at once. He ordered this dragon to take care of them. She didn't understand how Guishuan was able to subdue 2 formless realms. Considering how easily he had dispensed with the gods, her guess was probably correct. There is incredible power coming from this guy, and he also feels some sort of blood connection with him. He asked the priestess who he was. And Shang Zhao replied that he should already know his identity. It turns out he really is the father god. The father of all gods has truly awakened. This girl had grown noticeably older. He wondered how she was laughing at her impersonation of him. She didn't realize where that voice was coming from. He was right on her muzzle and wondered if she really couldn't see him. He came here as a messenger of men, and asked the great godfather if he would deign to show himself and speak to him. But they have nothing to talk about, and he caught the wrong dragon. If she doesn't want to take her true form, he'll help her. Tsang Lun began to take on a human form. She asked the master why he was so impulsive. I mean, she's already shown herself, and it actually hurts. It's the youngest princess of the Shang Yusun family. Namely, the most dishonorable interstellar merchant in this solar system. How these followers of the godfather, in trying to find a replacement for him, decided to serve this dummy. She asked why the master was suddenly so angry. It hurts her. Shang Zhao replied that he was going a little overboard. The protagonist replied that she stole his name and deserves to be punished. He asked this girl what she was presenting herself to them for. Was she the one who dared to start a war on behalf of her father's god? If she tried to lie, he would skin her. The girl replied that it was not what he thought. These descendants of the gods just love battle. They're willing to fight humans for days on end. Shame on them. And she didn't pretend to be God the Father originally. They were the ones who mistook her for the master and called her by his name. In the end, it's their fault. It's such a brazen lie that they can't even find the words. He admits that in the beginning he mistook her for his father's god and her special nature. But later he began to suspect that she was a fake and just deceiving them. He turned to the father of all gods and replied that he was telling the truth. They did not want to involve anyone else when they performed the ritual to summon him. The protagonist replied that he believed him. Only he doesn't understand how she could pretend to be him. You can't get that aura on your own. He took her by the leg and started shaking her. A lot of all sorts of valuable things fell out in front of them. The girl replied that she would say anything. Mastera had dropped many magical relics during the war. She merely collected them, and as a result, her body was filled with the master's energy. And so this ritual mistook her for her father's god. And is that why she decided to give the sword to Daotai Shanzao and ordered an attack on the southwest coast? She's just fooling around. Analysis collected fragments in honor of the master. These treasures were a memory of his greatness. And now that she knows the master is alive, she can only rejoice in it. After all, what could be better than the news that he was alive? Did she really just want to collect all the parts of his magical weapon? He thinks there's more to it. A large part of her still wants to get her hands on the remnants of the formation stones he left in this area of the sea. Or he's wrong. Now they must realize what this whole spectacle is about. Whether it was intentional or not, it doesn't matter. All they did was set the stage for the potions. Danger level 1. The Zelts will invade the Donglin galaxy. The Zelts didn't sit idly by while they made this mess here. Now that Gongsun has to defend themselves with all their might against the invasion, do they want to continue the whole absurdity? They asked God their father's forgiveness. As his descendants, they are at his complete disposal. They asked for a chance to atone for all their sins. He allowed them to do it all. She asked the master what she should do. She could order her fleet of merchant ships to attack the Zelts. This is a serious assignment for interstellar traders that will keep them busy for a century to come. He said to give him the exact coordinates of his space fleet. She took down what he asked for and asked if it was enough. To be precise, the fleet was 140 light-years to the east, and 7,180 light-years if you moved upwards. He opened a portal. Threw the girl in there just to get her out of here and go home. He told them to go ahead and warn his remaining 2 priests to stop all skirmishes with the humans. Yang Wu Yue reported to Captain Xiao that his negotiations had been successful. She asked the protagonists to return to the ship, for they needed to talk, so the descendants of the gods are ready to make peace. He wanted to reply that it was because of his father's god. But he looked at the protagonist and realized that he was still hiding his identity in front of this girl. He means that this planet was created for all of them, so they should not be feuding. According to the pact made between the gods and humans, when the Zelts invade, they must unite to face a common enemy. Not to mention that Wu Yue is Captain Xiao's girlfriend, and they will protect her at all costs. He mentally thought he had done the right thing. War waits for no one, so we need to get our act together. With the gods and the formless kingdom, humanity had a good chance of standing up to the Zelts. Does that mean he won't take part in the war? There is another place he must go. He senses that there is an uninvited god in the void who is overseeing the war on this planet, and he has the power of the Taikan kingdom. He must go there and meet him. So he set off at once. He did arrive. As expected of a void demon god, he absorbed almost all the dark energy from the cosmos. Cultivation, fear, blood, anger, light and darkness, lust for killing. It all seems to feed him. No wonder he wanted to start a war to satisfy his hunger. But he doesn't have the courage to enter the realm of the Tsang Lun star. Is it possible that the rift he emerged from was created by the protagonist in his first battle? It seems that his premonition was justified. It was really him. If we look at it from that perspective, we can consider him to be his godfather as well. He can call him father, but it's not a fact that the protagonist recognizes him. He only has 70 or 80% of his power right now. They are almost equal, but he still wants him to call him father. With the fall of the Tsang Lun star, he will become more powerful than ever. This kid will become his slave. 80 points for such unwavering self-confidence. And although the plan is rather primitive, you can add another point for the villainous image. He asked why the hell the protagonist was sizing him up. Let him just die. He was too scared to go into that realm. He thought this guy was some big shot, but now he's moved. He sees how insignificant he is. When the invasion is successful, he will absorb all the energy of this planet, but his fleet began to break up. This was impossible because the war between humans and the descendants of the gods should have been in full swing. He had brought the only Taichin kingdom here. Tsang Lun shouldn't even have a chance of winning. If he claims there is such a mighty one, not how he could not have foreseen it. Soup stations are like this evil god who absorbs all the energy around them and obeys no laws or rules. They are smug and self-righteous fools who will never reach the higher path. For all his power, his IQ is 0. Does he really think he's holding back the protagonist, and thus giving the Zelts a better chance to win? Could it be that Guishuan had decided to distract him from the beginning? He didn't want this god to join the war. How could he win this battle? Does he really think that's going to stop him? Since he can grow stronger by corrupting the other inhabitants of the galaxy, perhaps he will indeed recover quickly. Then he'll just kill him. Let him see the power of creating an artifact that can seal the universe. He tried to somehow fight off the artifact that hurt him mercilessly. He said that kid can't beat him. Shaguiwan won't have the strength. He won't be able to kill him. It's true. With the main character's current injury, he would only be able to contain him, but he wouldn't be able to destroy him once and for all. So he had wasted his life's treasure for nothing. What an unfortunate loss. He heard the voice of the girl who had come to help the godfather. He wondered who they had here. The outcome of the battle is a foregone conclusion as the Zeldas are completely defeated and have retreated. She came to report to him. The girl also attacked that monster. All she has is a pathetic, shapeless kingdom. How dare she even show her strength in front of him? The guy was saying, don't bring children into a conflict between parents. This bowler completely collapsed on him. She thanked her father God for helping her. Turns out she's a centaur. Does Godfather think she looks weird? But the boy replied that it was beautiful in its own way. He wanted to ride her so badly. The boy thought that riding her was more comfortable than riding a dragon. If that is God's will, then does he not wish to sleep with her? Superficial meaning does not need such an involved interpretation. What kind of man doesn't like horses? While they were talking, this monster was still trying, somehow, to fight. This entity absorbs all negative emotions. In theory, as long as there are living beings in the world, he won't die. Not until he gets rid of this god with extraordinary power. But his soul is currently damaged, and he is not at the peak of his powers. So he can only rely on magical relics to control him for now. The girl replied that she understood, and asked her father, God, to saddle her. He should just get on her back. In fact, in addition to her other abilities, the main value lies in the blessing. With her, he can regain his strength and regain his former form. He immediately climbed on top of her and they decided to kill this god. He feels himself becoming overflowing with power. His soul is literally overflowing with Zifu energy. He won't mistake the feeling for anything. The guy realized that he was at his limit. He shouted that Xia Guishuan would not dare to enter the destroyed space to get rid of his body. When that god would be able to come out of there, then destroy all of his so-called descendants. He wished him luck with getting out of there. He ordered her to go back to her human form and not to show that form in front of him again. But after all, just now, God the Father had just said she was beautiful, and now he was forcing her to become human again. Could it be that deep in his heart he likes humans better? All he said was that he liked horses, and that was true. Even though he had to ride a dragon, his preference hasn't changed. He would love to ride her. Also, sitting on it is very comfortable, and he feels like he would get all his strength back. So let him not cry if he makes her his riding animal one day. She was too excited and misunderstood everything. At least this time the humans and the descendants of the gods were able to come to a conflict. If this conflict happens again, whose side will he be on? Or would he want to unite the entire universe so that there would never be wars again? He doesn't have that much time to unite an entire universe. He also doesn't have time for pointless wars between humans and gods. So why would he help either side? The guy is just giving them wisdom and a path to follow. Are they really going to resort to their father every time they get into a fight as if they were little kids? Is he really an omen of neutrality? Even if the war were to happen again? He replied that he was free to choose his fate, just as they were. Both humans and gods are his children, and he has never had and will never have any favorites. She'd gone so far just to see what he thought. The boy noticed that she looked more like a sly fox than a horse now. Her father is impartial and so honest that she wouldn't dare hide anything from him either. The blood of the Fox King runs in her. But not only. Does she really want him to enter the space of her soul? It's the Fox King. He didn't die, then only hid his spirit, and in the depths of his soul, Chan Zhao, waiting for resurrection. So the descendants of the gods weren't really looking for the Fox King's heir, but his reincarnation. Every 24 years, the spirit of the fox is reborn from flesh and blood to regain its power. She is so determined to rule over the descendants of the gods that she didn't even consider destroying the remnants of the Fox King. Instead, she's devoted herself to finding his reincarnation. Is it such a sign of loyalty for him? Godfather is prejudiced against her, so she decided to prove her loyalty in this way. Unfortunately, even now she doesn't know them where the Fox King will be reborn. After all these years, it reappeared. Given the little vixen's character, it's no wonder they couldn't uncover her true nature. There was nothing left but to consider her a silly fox with her own oddities. If her identity is revealed, she can merge with her original consciousness, gaining the karma of a Fox King, and become a king herself. I really wonder if she will rule over all the descendants of the gods and lose herself, or perhaps become something more. With this knowledge, he could repair the Fox King and Yin Xiaoru, so that she could use his power and immediately go to a completely different level. Or should he show respect to the king and keep her mind intact? But does he really want to do that? That was the question. The battle should have been over by now, so they should go back. No matter what, they must respect the Fox King and the little vixen's choice. We need to find out what kind of life she wants to live. The Zelts are retreating, and this is the last wave of monsters. They have to make sure they kill every last one of them. This monster wanted to attack her, but he was frozen. It was Shu. Yan Wuyue replied that it was very mature. Ice and flame, sword and blade. He never thought the two of them would be so compatible. He asked the girl why she decided to participate in the war. In fact, Shui had come here to see him. But the girl explained that she didn't need a reason to fight for her country. Besides, she is feeling fine, and she would like to be useful. He replied that they did a good job next time. If he got the right role, he would try to play it better. The girl suggested going back to headquarters. The entire deputy commander-in-chief must be waiting for them. He announced to all the soldiers that they had won this battle. Everyone was very happy about this victory. They should all be having fun and celebrating. She asked the master where he was going. Ms. Lin was approached by fans who started asking for her autograph and offered to celebrate together. They also invited the general to see the deputy commander-in-chief, who allowed them to celebrate. He was approached by a gongsun who saw that the guy looked lonely. He suggested that they celebrate together. Guishuan suddenly realized that he didn't have a goal he wanted to achieve. It's a bit confusing. Besides, he doesn't really like noise and hustle and bustle. He also has something to say to him, so he suggested we talk right here. They wondered where they were going. Why does the main character run away from a party with a man and act so cold? Something came into their minds that no one had even considered. The deputy explained that this guy had helped them so much in the battle. He would not persecute him or publicize the fact that he was a descendant of the gods. In addition, he deserves to be honored, given all his service to the country. The deputy asked what he wanted. It was as if he sensed the surveillance too and suggested we continue the conversation here. The girls didn't understand why the two of them had walked into the room together. It was looking less and less like a business conversation. They even locked the doors. Her imagination was starting to play out. Wu Yue told her to be quiet, because they might be heard, but he's dating Xiao Ru. General Yang is so worried that he might even want to steal him away. It is too because she and the girl are best friends and she should take care of her. And on the other hand, Zhu, who is obviously married to Gongsun, still keeps thinking, Guichuan. But Zhu is here to find out if Gongsun is a person of non-traditional orientation. They heard the deputy's voice. Did he really need to undress for further treatment? The protagonist replied that he also wanted to check if the ram had healed normally. He doesn't even have a recording device with him. If he wanted to reveal the guy's identity, he'd do it publicly. So why would he suggest that he talk in private? Guishuan admitted that it sounded logical. The deputy commander-in-chief seemed to have finally decided that Guishuan wasn't human. Humans don't have powers like this guy, but he's sure they're not the enemy. The deputy guessed who he was, but decided not to reveal it. Is it really because he saved his life? The protagonist asked what he wanted. The deputy wanted cooperation. That is, he wants to use the protagonist's relationship with the descendants of a god to help him deal with spies among humans. He can agree to that, but since it's a collaboration, what does he get out of it? The deputy asked, and what will the captain ask for? His life used to be very comfortable, and he doesn't want to be disturbed later. So he asked that his identity be kept secret. He doesn't want to be exposed either. He also asked for the secret files on the rift between humans and the descendants of a god 24 years ago, which he has. He's agreed to it. It's just a file, but it takes a little time because he has to find a way to get it. If that's the case, she'll definitely be able to cooperate quietly. He also has some borrowing to do, specifically General Yan Wu Ye. There's a place he wants to explore, so he wanted to borrow the general for a while. They were thinking about some obscene things. Zhu asked why use her. Is it because of the previous time because she didn't do well enough? She can work harder. There are underground ruins in the southwest defense zone. He wants to explore them. More specifically, the inner part of the defense zone. So he needs Yan Yue's help. The general was also fine with it. The war was already over, so she had nothing to do. Then they would leave. Zhu also wanted to go with them. Sometimes people are much more comfortable living in the game. There's no real danger and nothing to hide. He wondered when he could be a girl again. In the real world, he wants to be one too. Southwest Defense Zone. He asked Zhu if she was going to keep him like this for long. He has to work with Wu Yue after all. She doesn't want to do it, but he gave the order, so the girl is forced to obey him. This girl knows she doesn't have the slave tag, but still use his last order as an excuse. Wu Yue recalled that he is Xiao Ru's boyfriend. How can he hug other women so openly? He should think about his girlfriend's feelings. He's just a freak. He immediately thought of her. Afterward, he said that Shu was coming back. I wonder if he's chasing her away. He's not just a freak. He's the father of all freaks. He didn't understand why on earth she was crying. After the big battle, she should have grown up a bit, and her swordsman's heart should have become more pure. He had, after all, told her to stay away from him. Now, if she concentrated and traveled back, she could enter the real Qian Yuan realm. Now really is the best time to practice, but she just wants to stay close to him. She doesn't know if it's a habit or a beneficence. She fought hard for him, and in the end she was just blown away without a single praise. He said to listen to him. She did a great job this time. The girl asked who said he had to praise her. She decided to heed his advice. The girl realized that she had to return to practice, so she bid them farewell. The next time they would meet would be when he had already broken through the Qian Yuan realm. Wu Yu asked if she was so weak that she couldn't even argue with him. So why did he let her go? He replied that he and her were very similar, but he couldn't help her in any way. He could only give her advice with which it could evolve. Has he decided to move on to her case? And he didn't have any goals before, but now after some events, he realizes that there are still things he can do. And most of them need Wu Yue's help. There are many formations of ancient spirits in the ruins, and it's very dangerous. He just wanted her to help him through. He's actually more concerned with what's below. That being said, they are certain that the magical weapons of the gods and human technology are incompatible. So the military, even with control of the relics, won't have enough people to find them inside. They opened the gate for General Yan. He thanked and replied that he would go on. She should stay here and watch, but she wanted to go with him. True, the soldiers stopped her. There's an enchanting formation inside. You can only go there alone, but the general went with a man. If something happens to them, they will definitely be punished. That's why they can't even go after them. There are cases where he has to pretend he didn't see anything, or he'll die. She asked the captain if he thought something was wrong here. It was something that was making her so horny. It was the reason he didn't want her to go with him. Did he really know about the charm? This is an altar for ancient fiery rituals and reproduction. So love is the strongest element here. No matter how much she endures or how well she understands the reproduction of life. This is very useful for a mixed-race child like her who lacks kinship. It is the same one that can allow her to break through the Qianyuan realm. The ancient descendants of the gods are loyal to the godfather, just as he used to be. It was just that Diao Tai eventually dissolved into the sands of time, just like the altar of the gods before him. He always sings dithyrambs so tenderly that this man decided to save his life in return for it. This brother has his own way, so why is he praying to others for blessing? He must remember that God is the most illusory of all. At the end of the day, you have to rely on yourself. He had a general stuck to him from behind. She can't take it anymore. Could it be the enchanting demon? The guy has confirmed her hunch, so she doesn't even need to resist. If it's pair cultivation, then he's even good at it as she sees it. But this was something he hadn't tried yet. Then she offered to give it a try. He was teasing her on purpose, after all, because he wanted to do it here with her. But she got it all wrong. Love is about comprehending and cultivating. He doesn't even resist it. The guy wants it, but he's afraid. He now looks like a pervert from a century ago. He flipped her over. It's not a bad idea to try, but at least she should come to her senses. Just don't let her say he abused her. He used his technique. He asked if she had gotten better or if she still wanted to sleep with him. He's either a real gentleman or he's just messing around. Does he always, whenever he's in the presence of a beautiful woman, use his fingers to solve a problem? He didn't know what she was thinking right now. So it turns out she didn't like his fingers, so it was a waste of time to think about her. She has already lived for 100 years, and she could do with giving in to her feelings from time to time. She looks so beautiful that the girl is even at a disadvantage right now. She doesn't even know this whether Xiao Ru will cry. She knew this guy wouldn't dare. Since he had something important to find, let him get to it. He's just a little surprised by this contrast in her mood. She might not be as formal as she used to be. It's not even about prudence, it's the fear that boils her blood. But she doesn't know what she's afraid of. He's thinking too much, talking about what happened. She doesn't feel any different. The guy took a moment to notice that she said it well. She wasn't overwhelmed by his aura, and that was proof that she was getting stronger. She wondered if anyone had come here before them. The army guarded this place well and didn't think anyone would have infiltrated here for magical treasures that they could trade for a small profit. You don't have to use a living god for experimentation. The remnants and troop of gods are also very important to them. Her army isn't very in-depth on the subject. She'll be sure to investigate when she gets back. But what the guy was looking for now was most likely found by someone else. But he didn't seem to believe it. Using his technique, he made the scarlet bird show itself. The girl immediately decided to approach this bird. She dispelled the fire of it with her power. Could there be something under the crack, and it's her father? That has a high probability, but right now she really should leave. She didn't understand why on earth he was saying that. On this altar, he was originally as an offering, and now her best option was to go back to the humans and find him. If he was left over from her father's clan, she could tame him. Beyond that, she better get on with her research and breakthrough to the true Qianyuan. She realized that if she went any further with him, she would die, and wondered if the formation below was even stronger than what it was. Ashes to ashes and body lost. She told him to stop playing with words. Since this is her father's clan, and he said that she could descend after the Qian Yuan realm, it seems to mean that there is something useful for her here. Taking inspiration from ancestors, creating an innate land, and awakening innate talent are of course also possibilities and choices. But for her, which is a half-breed, the process can drain away the human part of her and burn her to the ground. All because of a dangerous bloodline. She can take the risk, but he won't help her. But she still wants to go. Of course she wants to find out where her divine lineage comes from. The risk is completely worth it. He told her everything, so she can do whatever she wants. She saw something coming. It was a standing scarlet bird. While the girl was attacking the standing birds, the protagonist realized that what he was looking for was still here. Yang begets yin. Fire begets water. And this overseas pearl, or it should be called the pearl of condensation of water, which sounds more appropriate. Xian Yu's son had tried so hard to find her. He used the 4 points of earth, water, fire, and wind in his formation. In this battle, he discovered that he had no other convenient magic weapon other than Yu Wangding. And until the injury healed, he even picks his nose. He can't. He must return the 8 magic tools he had in the past. But are there really only 3 of them left on this planet? And also their location is very strange. He turned his attention elsewhere. She was advised to give up her useless human bloodline. Her human blood would only hinder her progress. The blood of a god's descendants is the source of their power and talent. But she doesn't want it. She's talented not because of his blood, but because of her parents' blood. So this is what her Guixuan taught her about the harmony of yin and yang in life and reproduction. Her existence is not due to one group, but to the fusion of 2 bloodlines. It belongs to gods and men. He doesn't even seem to need to help her. They felt the earthquake and realized that this place was about to collapse. They have to run away, but General Yan is still there. Rocks were already flying at them, but the general saved them. They were glad the general was here. The general dignifiedly stepped into the depths of the ruins and emerged completely unscathed. She had even become much stronger. He used to think she was mightily powerful, but now she was simply crushing. She asked what happened while they were inside. The man replied that everything was fine. If she worried about someone following them or spying with ulterior motives, they were followed as soon as they entered the ruins. He said, "This is the man you want on and don't hide." Does he have to send her home, making her walk on her hind legs? Why did she follow him into the ruins? She asked the master to be the bottom. She wouldn't dare do that. They immediately recognized her as a goddess, for she had horns on her head, and did not understand how she had come here. She asked the master to save her, for they were armed. The general replied that this girl was not an enemy. She doesn't understand why on earth he didn't push this girl away. The guy had escorted Shui out before, and here comes another one, and he's so affectionate with her. As it turns out, she came here because she missed Master. He'd be damned if he believed her. He guessed at once that this wench was after the sea pearl, but he beat her to it and took the pearl already. She just wanted to help that nasty Master. Did she think he was dead before this? But she's here on time, and he needs something. It should be something she can do, given her connections. She listed all the things for honing magic weapons. Teacher must be so poor. He used to have all sorts of magic treasures with him. He has a couple things to do, so he asked her to bring them to him. She is sure to find what the master desires. She's sure she did the right thing, and next time the bitch herself won't chase her away. That's why she'll go first. That damn girl's got a lot on her plate. We've been in a good mood lately, but these two keep coming in to take advantage of it. Yan Wu Yue asked if he was a fan of little girls. The protagonist asked if she had ever seen a 600-year-old little girl. But he decided to change the subject, because it was also time for them to go home and sleep. But what was the point of going home? She decided to do something else. If others can do it, so can she. Now he can go back to her. She doesn't even know if he will feel guilty when he sees Xiaoru. His carefree appearance makes people angry, so she'll see how long he can pretend. Southwest Sea. The descendants withdrew their troops completely. An army of humans regained control, and the humans retained their homeland once again. She didn't understand why Xia Guishuan didn't return when it was over. Perhaps he took the opportunity of the war to sneak out and have some fun. Or maybe he remembered the past and decided not to leave Shui. If she missed him so much, she could have just said so. She immediately jumped into his arms, for she was very glad to see him. He clearly wasn't expecting this.